Welcome to Alpha 202, Advanced Mobile Development with Alpha Anywhere. In this course, you're going to take your Alpha Anywhere mobile development skills to the next level. In this course, you'll extend the functionality of the mobile application developed in Alpha 201 to add multi-level data, new controls, and improved navigation. We will continue to use the example company Alpha Sports. In this training, we will be focusing on adding field customer survey functionality to the existing customer directory functionality. The field customer survey will allow Alpha Sports field personnel to collect sophisticated customer survey data in a simple-to-use interface, including photos. We will be covering the following core topics in our Alpha Anywhere mobile application system. Enhancing the navigation of the application using the control bar. Adding Action JavaScript to the control bar to enable navigation behaviors. Adding field formatting to better display customer data. Using the semicircular display to make it easy for the user to understand customer data. Add a child list to show parent-child customer survey data that is fully editable online and offline. Mobile optimized field controls to capture survey data. Signature and image capture fields to also include this data in the survey system. You will also leverage advanced control bar functionality for an improved user interface experience and capture device location data automatically during survey collection. During the training, we will be discussing a wide range of Alpha Anywhere mobile controls that will allow you to produce powerful and easy-to-use user experiences. By the end of this course, you will be able to confidently build sophisticated offline mobile applications with a wider range of user interface controls and multi-level data structures. This is a second method for setting up your training environment using the existing file sets. You'll receive a zip file called Alpha 202 Training Files. Our first step is to unzip that and make that available. You should have downloaded it to your download directory or your desktop, wherever it's most convenient for you. So I'm going to right-click on the zip file, and I'm going to click on Extract All. This will now ask me where I want to extract that file, and I'll go ahead and accept that and extract. You'll notice then it has extracted those files into a folder and placed that folder on my desktop and opened up a browser window. So let me go ahead and go into that, and you'll see we have a complete set or workspace, which was shown in the other alternative, but you'll also notice we've included the individual items, the database, the logo, and the main UX. So I'm going to show you how you can manually set up your workspace in a very short period of time. So for our first step is to go ahead and navigate to our documents. Navigate to the folder where you are keeping your alpha projects. We recommend having a primary folder to do that. I'm using the Alpha Anywhere Space V12 folder. And in here, I already have a couple folders. This is created by the system, and this is where I've archived some older project files. So I'm going to right-click here and say New Folder, because I want to create a folder for my workspace. And I'm going to call that Alpha 202. And then either hit Enter or click out of there. I'm going to double click on Alpha 202. We're now in that folder. I'm going to go back here and open up my training files here. That'll open up a different file browser. I'm going to go in there. And the first thing I'd like to do is go ahead and copy my database into that directory that I've just created. You can either copy or move it, whichever you're comfortable with. So now that I've added that folder here and I've folded that, I can now go into Alpha to do the next steps. So the next steps are go ahead and launch Alpha. I do so on the Quick Start menu. You can also have a desktop icon. I run it as administrator. That's very important. And this is asking me permission to run it as administrator. So this will now open up our Alpha Anywhere user interface. Now, we don't have a workspace, so we're going to go ahead and click Create a New Empty Workspace. and then click OK. This will then open up our Create New Workspace dialog box. Go ahead and call it Alpha 202. And then you'll notice that it's got a certain workspace location, but verify that's correct. To do so, click Browse, go to your Documents, to that Alpha Anywhere, and then select that folder we just created a few minutes ago that has Alpha 202. So that's our primary folder. We're going to create our workspace within there so all the associated files are put in the right place. And click OK. So now we have our workspace name. We have our location. Very important is uncheck Create Workspace Directory. If you do that, it will create another folder within that folder. In our case, we don't need to do that. So Alpha 202, proper directory, unchecked, and click OK. This will now ask us a question if we want to have the web control panel open up when we open, and the answer is yes. Click OK. And now we're at our web projects control panel. Now there are two methods I'd like to show you on how to restore files. The first method is within Alpha, you can use the add file function to bring in files into the system. So for instance, I'm going to go to Web Components, and I'm going to click Add File, and then I'm going to go to my desktop and go into my Training Files folder. And you'll see that we have a UX that's located there. So you can just one by one go into that folder, bring them into here. But that's kind of cumbersome. It takes a few minutes to do that. I have a much faster and more effective way to do it. So let's go ahead and cancel here. I'm going to go to the Web Projects Control Panel. I've gone ahead and opened it up. And I'm going to click here for Open Project Folder in Windows Explorer. This will open up exactly where these files should go. So you'll notice that it's opened up our Alpha 202 under Web Projects and Default Web Project. I'm going to go ahead and shrink my Alpha Anywhere environment, and I'm going to place that over here on the right-hand side screen. So this is the target, where I want those files. This is where Alpha is going to be looking for my files. I'm going to go ahead and close out here. And then I'm going to then also come over here. So this is that folder that we unzipped, the Alpha 202 training files. And you'll notice in here we have two files, Alpha Sports Logo and Main UX. So now what I can do is copy those. And then I can go back into this folder that I opened up from within Alpha and right-click and paste. So what I'm doing is just manually moving in my files into the directory that Alpha will be looking for my project. As you can see, it's going to analyze those because Alpha picked it up. It's watching that folder and it said, oh, I'm going to look at that. So I click OK. Now when I return into Alpha, and you can see it sets up its own little background file information, you'll see now that I'm into the Alpha Web Control Panel, you'll see that now my main UX is showing up under Web Components. And if I go to Images, it's showing my logo. As you can see, if you had a large number of files, it's actually easier just to copy them into the proper folder inside the workspace so that they're shown. Otherwise, it's even easier to have a full workspace backed up and ready to go. Now, there's one less step we need to do. When we created our folder, we went ahead, and I'll go up and navigate up to our Alpha 202. We copied in our Alpha Sports 202. What's important for us is that that is the database where we need to get the information for our project. So let's go back into Alpha, and we already have an existing main UX, and we already have some content that's going to be looking for that database. So let's click Tools, Alpha DAO, Connection Strings. And as you can see, it's empty. So let's go ahead and create our connection string that will be needed for the UX component to talk to the database. So let's click New. We're going to call that CONN. And then under the connection string, click Build. You'll see our default connection string type is Access, and we're using an Access database. So go to File Name, click the folder icon. And then what I'd like you to do is, it's already here, but I'm going to navigate to Documents, Alpha Anywhere V12, into my Alpha202 folder, and locate that database at that location. And click Open. We can immediately test to make sure there's no problems by clicking Test Connection, and that's highly recommended. And we've succeeded, and click OK. You can then click OK here, click OK here, and close. Now our project is ready to go for training. We have our content restored and ready to go. We also have our connection strings set up and pointed to the right database location on your local system, and you're ready to proceed with the balance of the training. Before we start our training, I wanted to kind of bring you up to speed on where we're at. This control was created in Alpha 201, and the goal was to create an offline mobile application for the Alpha Sports field team to be able to look at customer information. So let me go ahead and open up the main UX. You'll notice we only have one component. That's the central component for this particular application. And I'm going to go ahead and do a live preview here to show you a preview of what the application does. So we have our main menu. It consists of 3 buttons and a logo. This will take us to a customer list. This will create a new customer record and then also synchronize our customers. So let me go ahead and go into customers. As you'll see, we have a list of customers in a nicely formatted mobile format. These customers are being pulled down from the backend database and stored locally. This is a full offline application. I'll go ahead and go into one of these customers here. And you'll see that we have organized and updated the user interface so they can review the information regarding this particular customer here. And it is a full operational application. So if I go in here and change, say, the first name, and I scroll down, I can then save this record here. Now that I've saved that record, if I go back to my customer list, you'll notice that we have a orange caret. And this basically says that this record has been edited offline but not been persisted back to the backend database. So we can go back to our home page, click Synchronize Customers, and now synchronize our information back into the database. And if we go back into customer, you'll notice also we don't have any caret there because this data is now up to date and matches the backend data source. A few other things we did, we focused on the control bar up top. We kind of showed how we could add navigation to that. We also added a map for the customer, and therefore this will automatically map the customer information. So you can see it will go to that person. You also notice the control bar up here modified itself so that as we went into the map, it changed the style, and we'll continue to build on that. And I can return back to the customer detail from that standpoint there. So our goal is to take this base application and significantly improve it. And we'll be improving it both in the look and feel, the kind of controls, and we're going to also add whole new sets of information that can be collected by this field application. Our first task is to improve the overall navigation. In this situation, we want to focus on the detail view record here. Currently, you'll notice that we have a button Map Customer. This is located as a large button at the top of the screen. And if I scroll down to the bottom, we have 2 other buttons here, Save and Reset. And let me scroll down a little bit more, and you'll see we have a leftover text box. So we want to remove that text box. And we want to use the power of the control bar because that is one of your most important controls. So what we want to do is actually move all of these buttons off the page from buttons onto the control bar for 2 reasons. One, consistency. Now the user can use the control bar as a singular place to go look for commands to act on the content they're reviewing. The other is that it removes the requirement to do a lot of scrolling up and down to be able to see the proper buttons. So what we want to do is take this Save and Reset, move it to the top area, and also move our Map Customer to the top area. So the process is as follows. The first step we want to do is create a new layout. So control bars consist of layouts, and you can see right now we're on a particular layout here. And when I go to Map Customer, we change that layout based upon the content, And then when we return back to the detail view of the customer, then that control bar again layout has been changed. So our first task is to create a new control bar layout, to create a series of buttons that will contain our map, reset, and save functionality, and then wire it all up and make sure when the person comes into a detail view record, the proper control bar is set up. Once we have that, then we'll have a much more consistent user interface experience for the user, and we'll further leverage our control bar to the greatest extent possible. So our first step is going to be creating our new control bar layout with our new buttons. To modify our control bar, let's go ahead and go back into the design. And you'll notice that we have a panel header here with our primary control bar at the top. In order to edit the control bar, either double-click on control bar or click the ellipsis button next to control bar properties on the right. This will open up our control bar editor. So, as you can see, we are loaded into the control bar builder. We are currently at the control bar layout tab. If you're not there, go ahead and click on control bar layout tab. And you'll notice that we have a layout 1, which is our default layout, a menu layout here, which holds our main menu, and another layout called PC_customer map, which is that unique layout that's shown when we're viewing the map of the customer. What we're going to do is create a new layout, but before we do that, we want to go ahead and create our items. The reason we want to do that is that control bars are made up of items. So let's go ahead and go to our items here, and let's look at what we want to do. So in our case, we actually want to create 4 unique buttons. One button is a navigation button that will take us back to the list. The other button will do a save. The other button will do a reset. And then finally, another button that will do the mapping of the customer. So we kind of want to lay out what we want to do in that control bar and then go ahead and start modifying it. So I am going to the items section, and as a refresher, control bar layouts are made up of items. These are individual items that are available here. So I'll go back to items here, and I'm going to go ahead and add a control bar item. Our first control bar item will be a navigation button that will take us back to the customer list. So I'm going to go click on Add Control Bar Item. I'm going to type in Button Customer List. I tend to use this nomenclature just kind of as an easy reminder when I'm using the system. This will be a button here, and that is the normal type of control you'll use. So now we've created our first one, which is Button Customer List. Now I'm not going to modify the groups. What I want to do is go ahead and create all my buttons, and then I'll start modifying them as I see fit. So let's go ahead and add the other ones here. We'll go Button Customer Refresh or Reset. That's going to be our reset command. Then we want to add another one, which is Button Customer Save. And again, that's a button there. And the last button we want is Button Customer Map. So we've created our 4 buttons that are needed for the user interface. Now we can go in and start modifying their look and feel. So let's go to Button Customer List. And in this case, we want it to be a navigation button that will take the person back to the customer list. So we go to Button Layout. And what we want to do is instead of text, we'd like to show only an icon. So let's go ahead and select that and say Image Only. Then what we want to do is select the image we would like to display. So you'll notice 2 items down is the icon. So we'll select Icon. Let's go to SVG icons. That's the one you want to use. They look great. There's tons of them built into Alpha, and it'll make your life a lot easier. So let's click Select. And I'm going to go to the filter and type the word left. And I'm going to locate our chevron left here. This is the same icon I used for the customer map, so it's consistency. So let's click OK. So now we have that. And we have our first button, Customer List, set up with that icon. Now let's go to Customer Reset. Again, let's go ahead and change this button layout from a text to an image. And the reason I want only images is because I don't have a lot of space on that control bar, so I want to make them images. So now that I've selected button layout, I can go to icon, and this will open up my specify image. Again, you can bring in your own images. You're not limited to SVG icons. It's really up to you. I'm going to go to SVG. I'm going to click select. I'm going to click into filter and type the word cancel. I know there's a nice one that's sort of like a pin with an X that will mean erase your modifications. So let's go ahead and select that. Again, I typed into filter cancel, and then the SVG icon that came up was the little pin with the X mark. Click OK. And click OK. Now we can go to our customer save. So I'm going to again change that button layout from text only to image only. And I'm going to go down to the icon, open that up. I'm going to use an SVG icon, and I'm going to click select here to open the selector. And I'm going to type the word save. And there's a nice one here that kind of shows the concept of saving content into like a file box or whatever. So I tend to use that one there. And click OK. So that's our icon for our save. Our last is our customer map. So I'm going to go again to the button layout, turn that into an image, and then I'm going to go to icon and select that to modify the icon. I'm going to go to SVG icon, going to click select, and I'm going to go ahead and go into the filter and type the word map. And as you can see, there's a number of different mapping ones. I tend to like this one right here. And click OK. And click save. Okay, so we now have our 4 button icons, or 4 buttons with icons ready to go. Now, next step is to go ahead and lay out our control bar to show and display how it's going to be shown on the screen. And then we'll come back and add the actions and other things like that to make it perform. So our first step is to go to control bar layout, then click add layout. We're going to create a new new layout for our buttons. And let's call this PC customer detail. Now the reason I call it PC_customer details, that matches the panel card in which I'm going to display this control bar. So I find that's a nice way to kind of keep an understanding of what control bars are related to what content within your application. So let's click OK. So we have our new PC_customer detail. You'll notice that we have not added any lines, so we have an error condition. And it's basically saying we need to go ahead and start adding content to this. So let's click Add Line. This adds a new line using the Edit Layout line. And you'll notice we have 3 areas, before, middle, and after. The reason they're called before, middle, and after is because this could also be vertical. So you may have horizontal, which would be left, center, right, or vertical, which would be top, middle, bottom. So this is kind of a generic way to say you have things at the beginning, kind of in the middle, and then after that from there. So what we want to do is first we want to add our icon in here for the navigation. So we'll go ahead and go there and select our button customer list and then click OK. In the middle, we have been using the application name, so let's go ahead and be consistent about that. Click Add, select HTML1, and then click OK. Now the after is where we can add multiple items. So let's go ahead and click Add. And what we want to do is we have 3 buttons we'd like to do: Save, Reset, and Map. So I'm going to first start with Map. Then I'm going to add a second one here by clicking the Add button and clicking Save. And last but not least, I want to add my 3rd button, which is Reset, Button Customer Reset, and click OK. Now the order of these are in terms of left to right because we're horizontal. So it's going to show the map icon, the save icon, and the reset icon. Might be you want the save to kind of be the one on the far right. So what you can do is you can move these up and down by using this. So I'm going to go ahead and click up, and you'll notice now this is the order here. So you can go in and kind of play with the order with that, both the location on the control bar, but then if there are multiple items, the order in which they are, and click OK. So now you'll see we have our new control bar layout. On the left, it has an arrow here. In the middle, it has the name of my app. And then we have our three buttons, the map icon, the reset button, and the save button here. At this point, we have our map, At this point, we have our layout ready to go. We have two other key tasks that we need to do. One is to add the actions to these items here, which we'll do next. And then last but not least, we'll need to then integrate this control bar into the system so when it's displayed, the user will see the correct control bar when they're on the customer detail. Now that we've set up our items and our layout, we can now go to the next step, which is actually adding to our items the behaviors we need when it's running on the system. So let's do a quick review. When you create an item, the system will automatically create a click event. So the items are basically things you can put on your control bar. Then to add behaviors, you have what's called an action. And in our case, it automatically created actions for us in the control bar itself. So let's go ahead and look at this. So for instance, in button customer list, you'll see there's a click event and it created a action called button customer list on click. We go to the actions, we can find that button customer list on click, and you'll see it defined an action, and all it's really doing is an alert, just to let you know that something is happening there. So now we can start adding behaviors to our different events. The customer list event to navigate there, our customer reset, our customer save, and our map click events. Now, you could go ahead and start putting that information right in here. And you could type any JavaScript, you could start building there. And in fact, you could go here and say, create an edit JavaScript action. So now that you have this on-click event, you can go ahead and define any kind of JavaScript you would like to run here, including action JavaScript. Now, one thing we covered in our first class, and very, very important, is the fact that you really want to make sure whenever you have any kind of actions that you centralize those into the JavaScript actions area. That way they become easier to maintain and more reusable. So let's take a look at this. If we go ahead and go to customer list on click event, and you'll notice at this point it just has a little piece of JavaScript. So I'm going to highlight that and get rid of that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and action JavaScript, create edit JavaScript action. And this will open up our JavaScript actions. So as you can see, we have a set of actions already available. We have navigate home, customer detail, customer list, map customer, and new customer. So in our previous course, we had already created a action JavaScript that navigates to the customer list. And in fact, let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. You'll see that it is a single panel action that navigates to the panel that the customer list is on. So you can see I've opened that up. It's just set active panel to PC customer list. So one of the powerful things is once you start defining these actions, we can reuse those. This action currently is used on the button on the home page to go to the customer list, so we can simply reuse that. So go ahead and cancel out of here. And then when we have our button customer list on click, we can go to action JavaScript, insert code to run a JavaScript action. This will open up our list, and the one we want is navigate customer list, and create OK. So now what will happen is when the person clicks on the customer list button that we've created, it's going to trigger this action, and conversely, it's going to go ahead and execute our existing navigate customer list. We can do the same thing on the click event here for our customer map. So let's go back to our items. You'll see we have a button customer map. In there, we have a click event called button customer map on click. This was automatically generated by the system when we created this button. We go to actions, And now we have our button customer map on click. And you'll see that it has the default alert that was put in there. So let's go ahead and erase that. And let's go to JavaScript, our action JavaScript, insert code to run a JavaScript action, and let's use map customer. And then click OK. So now when the user clicks on the map, it's going to go ahead and run this action that already exists and take care of it. So the nice thing again is when you define any of your JavaScript or actions, always make sure to centralize them as action JavaScripts or functions in our JavaScript function area. That way we don't have code buried in our control bar or any of our buttons, etc. And it becomes much easier to use, but more importantly, as you see here, reuse that. So it's time to test out our first two net actions, one which is our customer list and our customer map. So let's click OK. Let's click Save. And I'm going to go ahead and go into our live preview. And I'm going to do a full preview just to make sure everything's set up and ready to go. So this opens up our user interface. We'll go to customers. We'll go into one of our customers, and you'll see that we are still missing a step. You'll notice that we're still showing that original layout. So what has to happen is when we click on a customer here, we want it to change this control bar layout to our new control layout that we created. So let's go back into design and look at this background. So if we go back into list of customers, go to our list properties, and scroll down to this area right here, which is your JavaScript runtime. So basically this dictates on your list, when a person clicks on a row, this event fires. And let's look at what happens. Well, if you'll notice that we're using the technique where dialog object, run action, navigate customer detail. So we've already created an action JavaScript that does basically a navigation from the customer list to the customer detail. And let's go ahead and take a look at what that is. So I'm going to click Action JavaScript, go to Create Edit JavaScript Actions, scroot this down a little bit, so you'll have Navigate Customer Detail. So here's our Navigate Customer Detail. Let's click Edit Action to look at that. And as you can see, that we have currently two actions. One action is Panel Actions, Navigate to Customer Detail Panel. So this basically just shows the customer detail. And in our previous course, we set it so that it also does a control bar action, which is setting the control bar layout to layout number 1. So let's go ahead and look at that. So as you can see, we are emitting a command that says set active control bar layout for our control bar, which is the top one there. And the layout is currently layout 1, which was our default. But we don't actually want to have our default. We want to show our new and improved customer detail layout. So let me go through that real quick. Go ahead and if you've gone here, go ahead and double click on control bar actions. Select the third item, which is layout name. Click the ellipsis button. This brings up a list of layouts that are in this control bar, and click on PC Customer Detail and click OK. Notice now that the layout name is going to be changed to that, and click OK. Now, you'll notice our comment here still says set the control bar layout to layout 1, so that can be confusing. So let's go ahead and edit that by clicking this little button down here, and we can say PC Customer Detail. And all we're doing is editing this comment so it matches up. Click OK. So now we've adjusted our existing Navigate Customer Action JavaScript to navigate to the customer detail panel, but now show our new layout, and click OK or save. We can click OK here. Now you'll notice our onClick event is calling that, so we don't actually need to modify that, and we're good to go. So let's click OK here. So now we've modified the behavior of the list customers. When they click on a row, it's going to do two things. It's going to navigate to the detail for that customer, and also at the same time update the layout. So let's click OK. Now let's do a save. And let's go into our working preview. Actually, let's click live preview. So our first step is to go to customers here. We now go ahead and click on South Bend Auto. And you'll notice now that our control bar has been changed. We have our left arrow, we have our text, and we have our buttons, our map button, our cancel button, and our save button. Now we've already created the action for this. Basically, it's the same as this. So when we click here, it takes us into our map and adjusts our control bar here. Now when we return back, you'll notice that because we modified the action JavaScript for going to the customer detail, it properly shows these items here. I do have a little overlap on my app, so I'll adjust that in the next few minutes here. You'll notice that we do have some overlap between this text and our icons. So for now, I'm going to go back in and delete that in a few moments, just because we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about how we can make this area up top dynamic and show dynamic information in the future. But there's one other thing we want to look at this point in time. You'll notice that I'm currently on the customer detail and I have my control bar layout. Things are looking good. My mapping button works great. Now I can return by clicking on this that will take me to my customer list. But notice what happens. When I return back to my customer list, the control bar layout is the same one. So until you tell it to change the control bar layout, it will keep whatever the current control bar layout is. So when I'm in the detail, it shows this layout. When I return, I need to modify this. And that's our return to list button right here. So let's go ahead and make those quick adjustments. Let's go ahead and get rid of this text here and change the action JavaScript for this return to list to be able to modify that. So let's go into design. Now, one of the other nice features of using action JavaScript is that once you double click on control bar, let's go ahead and look at our return customer list, and you'll notice we're going to navigate customer list. So let's go into our action JavaScript by clicking action JavaScript, create edit JavaScript action. And we have our one here, the third one, navigate customer list. And let's go ahead and edit that action. So as you can see, there's a current action built into it. And the only action that's occurring is a panel set active. So basically when you click that button, it takes you back to the panel where the list is, but it doesn't change anything about the control bar. So we merely need to edit and add on that the next action. So click add new action, type the word control bar right here, and you'll notice that an item comes up, control bar actions. This brings up our control bar actions editor. The first thing it's asking for is what action. So click the ellipsis button here. And we want to use the second one, which is set active control bar layout, and click OK. Now it's asking us which control bar to act on. We want control bar number 1. And then the layout is asking, well, what layout should I switch it to? And in our case, we're going to switch it back to layout number 1 because that is the de facto layout. In the future, you may actually want to create a specific layout just for that panel card. But for now, let's just select layout number 1. Click OK. So now OK. Now we'll say set the control bar layout to layout 1. I want to put in this comment so that you know exactly what's going on when we read this. And once you've entered in your comment, click OK. And now the system will, when clicked on that button and run this action, go to our panel actions, go to the correct panel, and also set the right layout. So click Save. Now we've edited our JavaScript action for Navigate Customer List, and we can click OK. Now you'll notice we don't actually need to change the action associated with our button because it's merely going to modify, or it's going to run that action and do all of our steps, including our new step from there. Now, as I mentioned, let's go to our layout here. And you'll see that our My App is kind of, it shows okay here, but on smaller form factors, it's kind of overrunning there. So you know what? Instead of deleting it, let's do the following. Let's go ahead and edit this line. And the way you do that is select Button Customer List, HTML, the line it's on, and click Edit. And what we can do is we can take this HTML, let's delete that, and over here, let's add that in here. So now instead of being middle aligned, our app name will be close to the button. Now you'll notice that it's showing the app name and then the button. That's not necessarily what we want. So make sure that you click the down button so it shows Button Customer List and HTML1. This is not optimal. Again, we're going to come back and change and make this a little bit more effective and a little bit later in our training, but this will allow it to look okay for now. So again, in your layout for PC Customer Detail, you want Button Customer List and then HTML1 in the before section and our buttons Map, Reset, Save in the after section. Click OK. You'll notice now that our HTML is showing over here. Again, not ideal, but will work for now. And we can click OK. Let's go ahead and save this. We'll go to Working Preview, Full Preview. Now we can test out our full navigation. So I'll scroll down a little bit, click Customers. Let's go in and look at a customer. You'll notice that it put up our new layout. Now what I'm going to do is click the back arrow, and you'll notice it goes back to the customer list, and at the same time it returns this to the default layout. So now things are starting to be a little more consistent as I move through the application. I'm going to go ahead and return back in, and we still have two buttons that are necessary to be set up. One is the Reset button to reset any edits to the detail view, and also the Submit or Save button here. Also, we're going to want to go ahead and remove some of these buttons that are on the interface because they're no longer needed. And we will do that in a later segment. Let's return back into our design environment. So click Design, and let's take a look at our last two buttons. I'm going to scroll down here till we have the Save and Reset buttons. So these two buttons are currently on the user interface, and what we want to do is figure out what the behaviors are for these buttons and add those to the buttons that are in our control bar. So to do so, we can merely go to the Save button and double click on that, and you'll see that when the Save button was originally created in our previous training, it automatically set up this JavaScript for us. So we didn't have to do that. That was automatically generated. Now, we could copy this information and then go into the control bar and then just paste that JavaScript right into the event or action associated with the button in the control bar. But there's a better methodology, and this is keeping with our underlying philosophy that you want to centralize all of your JavaScript actions. So let's go ahead and copy this, and the way you can do that is by highlighting all of the text in here and click Copy here, or you can right-click on that and say Copy. So now we've copied the save event information to our clipboard. Go ahead and click Cancel because we'll exit out of this. Now, in order to access the JavaScript actions, we could go into the control bar and step through there, or there's a shortcut. On the left-hand side, we can go here to JavaScript Actions and click that. You'll notice that brings up our JavaScript Action panel. So let's add a new action, and I'm going to say save customer. So we're going to create an action JavaScript that, in our case, will then save that customer information in a centralized location so it's not embedded into an object on my interface like a button. So click OK. Notice that it's giving us a warning saying we've created this action but not defined yet. So now we have our saved customer. And we're now able to go ahead and edit that. So click Edit Action. This opens up our Action JavaScript Builder. Click Add New Action. Then on the left-hand side, select the second item, which is Ajax Callbacks in JavaScript. And you'll notice one here called Inline JavaScript. Click OK. And what this does is it opens up a JavaScript editor. And we can merely put our insertion point inside here and either Control V or right click and say paste. So basically we're just moving that JavaScript into an action JavaScript. So now that that's saved, click OK, and let's go ahead and type this save customer information. That way we always have a comment for our actions. And click OK. So now we have our action JavaScript that's going to actually just run a little piece of JavaScript, and click Save. So now we have our new Save Action JavaScript. Let's repeat the action for reset. So let's go ahead and click OK to save all of our changes. We can now click on button reset and either double click on it or scroll down over here on the right, click the ellipsis button next to the click event for our button. And you'll see the JavaScript that was automatically created for us. So let's go ahead and copy that by highlighting it and clicking the copy button here, and then cancel out of here. Now let's perform the same thing we did before, where we go to JavaScript Actions, create a new action by clicking Add New Action, and we'll go Reset Customer. So it's similar. So we have Save Customer, New Customer, Reset Customer, and click OK. Notice it's giving us our warning. We're fine with that, and click OK. Now let's go ahead and edit that action by double clicking on it. Click Add New Action. This will open up our Action JavaScript Builder. Click the second item here, which will then show us our three different options, and the one we want is Inline JavaScript. And click OK. As we did before, this opens up our Inline JavaScript Action Builder. Just click anywhere in this white space, right-click, and say Paste. So we've just, again, moved our JavaScript into this location. And click OK. Now, let's go ahead and give this a comment. We'll just say Reset Customer. And click OK. So now we have our Action JavaScript for our Reset Customer ready to go. And click Save. Notice this is red, but there's just a little refresh time for it to show that it's green. So as you can see, I'm slowly but surely building a central set of functions that can be triggered from any user interface element within my system. So let's go ahead and click OK. So we've now extracted the JavaScript and made them into Action JavaScript. Now we just have to do our last step, which is scroll back up to the top. Let's go into our control bar by double clicking on it. We then need to go to the Actions tab by clicking on Actions here. And you'll notice then we have our actions here. So let's try our first one here, Button Customer Save. And again, this was automatically created for us and it has some default JavaScript. Let's delete that by highlighting this on line 14 and hitting the delete button. Now that we've done that, we can go to Action JavaScript. Now we don't have to go to Create Edit because we already did that. So now we just need to go to Insert Code to run a JavaScript action. And this brings up our selector. And we locate our Save Customer action and click OK. So now when the person clicks on the button, it's going to trigger this action, which will do our Action JavaScript. Next, we want to go to Button Reset. perform a similar action where we'll go ahead and delete on line 14 all of that text there. Go to Action JavaScript, go to Insert Code to run a JavaScript action, and then click on Reset Customer and click OK. So now we've fully enabled our actions, so we can click OK. Since we've done that, we can go ahead and clean up our user interface. So to do so, I'm going to delete this return to list, no longer needed. So I'll select button return to list and hit the single red X. Same thing with map customers. Let's go ahead and delete that. And we can go down here to our save and reset buttons, click save and delete that. And finally, go ahead and delete our reset button also. All right, so now we've updated everything ready to go. We've cleaned up our buttons. Let's go ahead and save this and we'll do a quick check. Go to live preview. Going to go ahead and scroll this down a little bit. We'll go into customers. We'll go to South Bend Auto. Go to the first name. I'm going to go ahead and edit that. So first, let's check our reset button. So up here, I'm going to click the reset button. And you'll notice it brings up a warning. Do you want to undo your changes? Click yes. And you'll notice now we're back to our original values. Now let's test our second one here by clicking there. Let's edit our first name by just putting in a 1 or so. And let's click our save button. And it's saved. You don't see much of a visual indicator, and that can always be added either through a message box or through navigation. But if we go back here to my customer list, you'll notice that my record has indeed been updated, and it's showing the little yellow caret to say that this has been modified and saved on the local device. And now we can go back to our home and synchronize our customers there. Now you'll notice I'm going back to home to synchronize that. We're going to show in a minute there's a way to automate that. And also in the future, I could create a control bar layout with the synchronize button up here showing so that when the list is dirty, this will be active and the person can do a synchronization without having to navigate back to the home panel card. Now that we have our user interface cleaned up, we're actually ready to add some new functionality. Originally, the application was meant to be a mobile solution for field personnel to be able to look up customer information. And they decided to add on top of that some customer details in terms of what kind of sales they're performing both month to day, year to day, and some KPIs. The idea is the field personnel can use this information to better make decisions while in the field. So what we're going to do is this information has been added to the database but is not currently within our application. So our job is to extract that information, add it to our user interface, and then enhance the value of that data using some very nice graphical tools built into Alpha Anywhere. So let's start our process. The first process we need to do is identify and bring into our application those new fields. The heart of our application is called List Customers, and List Customers holds all the information about the customers, and it's connected to the backend database through our connection string. So let's go ahead and open List Customers by double-clicking on it. This will open up our list builder, and you'll notice we're on the data source field, or data source tab, and currently we're using SQL. And as you can see, we're using a specific SQL statement to pull back information from the database. Let's go ahead and investigate that a little closer. So go ahead and click the ellipsis button here to open up our query. So you can see this is our current query. This is the information that's being pulled from the backend database to populate our front end. And in fact, I can click here, Execute Query, to actually see that information. So as you can tell, in our first training session, we brought down some basic information and some billing address information, including the person's email. But since we've developed our first application, there are actually more columns available in our backend database. And in fact, we can click the Columns tab to see all of the available columns. So this is the customer table, And if I scroll down here, you'll see the fields that have been selected, i.e. they're showing up here in our selected columns. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and you'll notice that we have some address information that's not being shown. But more importantly is that if we scroll down here, you'll see there are 5 fields that have been added since the original training. Sales month to date, sales year to date, and then some KPI information, key performance indicators, overall purchasing reorder. So in order to use those, they're available in the database. That's what's showing here. But you'll notice our selected columns does not have that information. So to add that into our SQL Genie, i.e. what the list will pull down from the back end, go ahead and scroll down, select email. That way we're selecting our insertion point. Then go over to the left and either shift click or click and drag over the 5 new fields: sales, month to date, year to date, overall purchasing, and reorder. Now, once we've selected our insertion point and selected those items, use the first selector here to move those from the available into the selected. And once you've done that, if you scroll down, you'll now notice that in our selected columns, it's added those new fields. And if you look at our SQL query, you'll notice that it is added those fields to our query. And in fact, we could go ahead and test this by clicking Execute Query. When we click Execute Query, it'll run our updated query with our new columns in it. I'm going to go ahead and scroll over to the right, and now you can see that it's bringing both sales information and overall KPI, purchasing, etc. into it. So now when that list is populated, it will call back to the backend database and pull all of this information and make it available to our front-end application. So go ahead and click OK. So we now have our list set up so that it is grabbing the information from the back end to be able to use. But now what we need to do is actually display that to the user. And with that, we use what's called a detail view. In our next training, we'll go ahead and show you how you can quickly add these new items as fields in our detail view to present those to the user. Now that we have our information coming into our list, we're now ready to add our fields to the user interface and link those to our list so that when the user selects an item, they'll actually see these new fields in their display. Let's go ahead and click Cancel here. Now, one method is to go in here and create your fields manually. So what you can do is say, okay, I want to have a new area right here, and then I'm going to click my text boxes and then add my fields, and then I go back into the list and combine them together. And that works fine. But there's an actual easier way for you to add these fields and have Alpha do the work for you. So to do so, double click to go back into List Customers. We'll go to our detail view. And this is what dictates how the list controls and interacts with the different controls on the user interface. So you'll notice the second item here is Detail View Field Map. This basically controls the connection between the individual fields that are in the list control with the controls on the user interface. So go ahead and click Ellipsis here. This will open the Define the Field Map. On the left-hand side are our columns in our list. On the right-hand side are controls that are on our UX component. And if I scroll down, you'll notice that our new fields are showing up here, but they're not mapped to any controls. To quickly create those controls, you can use this function, Create New UX Controls for all unmapped fields. So let's go ahead and select that. And you'll notice after I selected it, refresh this area. If I go back here, you'll notice now we have our fields on the left and a command to create a new UX control on the right. And now we can click OK. When we click OK, it's going to give us a real quick view of our existing UX and our existing fields. So I'm actually going to scroll down here, and I want to go to where I am at the end of the address frame. And it's frame_in-frame_1. This is where it's going to create my new controls. And you'll notice it's saying after. So now we click OK. It's giving me a confirmation that these are the controls that will be created. Click OK. And in a moment, you'll see the screen will refresh where the system has put in our controls right here. So the nice thing is that it automatically creates our controls for us, and it automatically maps the list control to those new controls in the user interface. To test this, click OK, save. We can go into working preview once the component is rendered. I'll go to customers. We'll select this customer right here. And if I scroll down, you will now see we have our new controls on the user interface. And more importantly, they are linked to our list. So when I select that particular customer, we now have that information showing properly. Now, you'll notice that it auto-generated the controls for us with some standard field using the name of the field in the database and formatting. The next step is for us to go ahead and clean this up so it makes it very visually interesting for the user and presents very quick and easy to read information for them. So then now that we have connected our new fields in our database to our list control through the data source and added those fields to the user interface, the system will now take care of bringing that information down to the mobile platform. But what we'd like to do is take a few minutes to clean this up to make it actually more effective for the user using the mobile application. Specifically, you'll notice that we have a sales month to date. And you'll notice the name is a little bit off because it's using the column name and the location of the field is down below, so we're wasting a little space. The other aspect is we're able to actually edit that value, and in this case we want it read only. And last but not least, we want to be able to give some visual indicators to the user of how this account is doing. So we're going to make those adjustments right now. So to do so, go back into the design. Once you're back into the design, scroll down till we find our sales month to date field. So the first thing we'd like to do is adjust our label. So if we go over to the right-hand side and either scroll down or locate the field label section in the properties, you'll notice the position of our label is on top. So we can modify that by clicking the drop-down arrow and selecting left. Now that position will be to the left of the field and thus use the real estate a little nicer. Next, we can look at the label. As we noted, it uses the field name, so we can change that to sales space month to date. So it reads a little bit nicer. Now we need to do two other things to this field. First is that currently the user is allowed to edit it. We want to eliminate that capability. So if we scroll down, you'll notice that we have a client-side properties, and we have an enable expression and a read-only expression. These expressions allow you to dynamically change the sort of status of the field. In our case, we always want it to be read-only. Now the way these expressions work, and there's a little help down below here, is that if the expression returns true, then the field is either enabled or read-only. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click into read-only and type 1 equals 1. That expression, the number 1 equals the number 1, will always be true, thus this field will always be read-only. And so that's a quick and dirty way to essentially insert a expression that will always resolve to the exact amount. But this is more sophisticated than that. Just to let you know, is by opening this up, I can actually insert other field values, etc., to on the fly make this decision. So the client-side capability is very powerful to allow you to modify how the user interacts with that field and the state of that field depending on what's going on in that application. So we'll go ahead and leave that as 1 equals 1. Now we want to do one last very powerful thing. We want to be able to give the user an indicator of the value. Is it a good value? Is it a bad value? Are they above or below trend, etc.? And to do so, we can use a built-in feature called conditional style. And with conditional style, this allows us to go in and set up rules on how the formatting of that field should be done based upon the information in that field or other fields. Again, very powerful because this is all done on the application side, and it allows you to modify things on the fly depending on what's going on inside the application. Now that we have our read-only set, we now want to change how the information is displayed in the field. We want to make sure that they understand that this is a currency value. To do so, we use client-side properties, specifically client-side formatting. So click the checkbox next to client-side formatting. This will enable the format type. You may see either customer number, select number, and then in format definition, go ahead and click that to open it up. Now what you want to do is make sure the following things are set, that the has thousand separator is enabled, and also that your prefix is a $sign. And this may change depending upon your particular locale. So again, I have thousand separator, and then under prefix, I have the $sign, and then click OK. So now when this is displayed, it's going to use this format definition to represent the information on the field. Now that we've done that, we have one last step, which is we want to give a visual indicator to the individual of the value of how the status of that number. Are they doing good? Are they doing bad? So to do so, we are going to use the conditional style functionality built into the system. So in the client-side properties, go ahead and click the ellipsis button on conditional style. This will open up our conditional style builder. And in here, we can set a series of conditions that will on the fly change the formatting of that field. And what's nice is this is all client-side. So if things are changing on your mobile device in the field, you're going to see the instant result here. So let's go ahead and add a condition. So the first thing you'll see in our condition builder is on top, we have a logical expression. So this is what the system is going to test. So I'm going to insert a field name, and in this case, I'm going to select this field, sales month to date. And I want to say if it's greater than $50,000, the numeric value 50,000, then I want to trigger this style. And what I want to do is I want to show a specific background style. So I'm going to change my background color to be dark green, and you might see this here. So I'll go down here to a dark green. So notice you'll see a preview of what it will look like here. Now you'll notice the text is not very readable, so let's go ahead and modify that text value also. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to select that to be white. So I'm going to scroll down till I find the white color. There it is. And notice now you have something very visible for the user. So what will happen is when this field is rendered, it will check this expression and say if it's valid, then go ahead and set up this value or this formatting here. Notice you can use class names if you would prefer, so you can set up classes and apply them dynamically, which is a very powerful solution. And you can also use a function, which is JavaScript, to do this kind of calculation instead of the expression builder. Let's click OK. Now we have our first expression, but let's go ahead and modify our expression in terms of adding a different condition. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to again insert the field name, which is sales month to date, and I'll say if it's less than 50,000, then I want to change the coloring. So what I'd like to do in that case is I want the background color to be yellow. So I'll scroll down here till I get yellow. And in this case, the black on the yellow is actually pretty readable, so I'll leave that as it is here and click OK. So now we have two conditions that are applied to our field, which will be addressed at runtime. Click OK. Now I want to do one last adjustment. When we added these fields, they were the default field width, but I actually want them to be a little greater. So let's go ahead and scroll back up to the top and then find the property width. And that property should be 90%. What we tend to do is keep it 90% versus 100%, so it'll maximize the amount of space on the screen it will take, but it will still leave a little white space for the ability to scroll up and down using your finger. Let's click Save, and let's test out our adjustments. I'll navigate into Customers. I'll look at South Bend Auto first, and I'll scroll down to our location there. So as you can see, South Bend Autos has monthly revenue over 50,000. So you'll notice that has a nice green background with the white saying they're in good shape. You'll notice that the sales month to date looks really good and the field is non-editable, so it's display only. Now we want to go ahead and in our next phase, apply that to our other field here in a quick formatting so we get a very similar look and feel. And then also down here, we want to go ahead and modify our KPIs so they also display information visually instead of in just a numeric value. Now that we've set up our sales month to date, we can quickly apply the same methodology to the sales year to date to make it also look sharp. So let's go ahead and use some of the built-in functionality of Alpha to quickly copy the parameters here to here. So our first step is to go back into design. Go ahead and scroll to the top. Make sure you have sales month to date selected. Now built into Alpha is a very powerful feature. What I can do is with a existing control selected, I can select a property. You'll notice here the width property. And now I can click this button right here on the icon bar, which looks like an eyedropper. And this allows me to copy that property to another field. So when I select that, you'll see that it opens up a navigator that shows me all my different fields that are in my UX. And you'll notice you can even see sales month to date is currently 90%, but sales year to date does not have a value. So go ahead and select sales year to date and click Set Properties. That will now copy this property to sales year to date. Now that we have that property, we can go ahead and scroll down and let's copy another property. In our case, we want to copy read-only expression from sales month to date to sales year to date. So we can go ahead and click the copy icon again and go down here to sales year to date. Notice it's not set yet and click Set Properties. So now we have on sales year to date our two properties set up. And now we can set up our other properties. The first thing we're going to do is apply some client-side formatting because we also want it to be displayed as a currency number. So enable client-side formatting. Under format type, select number. And then under number, click format definition. That's the ellipsis button right here. And you can say, for instance, it has 1,000 character and the prefix is equal to dollars. Yours may be empty, so go ahead and you select this and put in the dollar value there and click OK. So now we have this formatted to also show things in a currency. Our last but most important step is to apply the conditional formatting so we get a color coding system. Now we could go ahead and go into conditional style and set up those rules, but there's actually a nice shortcut since we're basically going to have something very near to what we have on month to date. So click sales month to date, which is the one we already have our conditional property set up on. Click on conditional style and click the ellipsis button. You'll notice in here that we have our conditional style set, and down at the bottom of the screen you're going to notice we have a export and import function. So I'm going to go ahead and click export. This brings up a dialog box where it's showing these rules in a textual format. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of those values, and I'm going to right click on it and click copy, and then click OK. So now we've basically copied this conditional style onto our clipboard. So go ahead and click cancel. Now what we can do is go to sales year to date. You'll notice our conditional style is not set. So you can open that up. You'll notice we don't have anything set, but down below we have our two buttons, export and import. In this case, we click import. And this brings up our import data. And currently it's empty. So now we can right click on here and click paste. And you'll see it pastes our rules from the previous field here. Once you've pasted it in here, click OK, and now you'll notice that our new rules are applied here. But we have one last thing we need to do. You'll notice the rules are currently looking at sales month to date and have a lower value. So let's go ahead and adjust that real quick so that it makes more sense when we're using the sales year to date. So the first thing I'm going to do is click and edit that condition by selecting it and click Edit Condition. In here, I can then either manually change it or I can highlight the sales month to date, because we don't want to look at the sales month to date field. We want to look at the sales year to date field. And then click Insert Field Name and select this field, Sales Year to Date. So all we're doing is changing that text from sales month to date to year to date. And since the sales year to date is a little larger, I'm going to adjust that to say $500,000 a year. So sales year to date, 500,000, and that will adjust that rule there. And click OK. So now you'll notice our rule is set up where we have a first rule, which is sales year to date over 500 grand. It's that style. But we need to adjust our second condition, which is still looking at the month to date value. So to do so, select sales month to date, click Edit Condition. Now in this case, I can either insert the field name or I can just highlight that M and make it a Y, because it's looking for is the textual description of the field I'm looking at. And I'm going to go ahead and change my value here to be less than 500,000. So sales year to date is less than 500,000. And that is our new updated rule. So as you can see, we can save a little pointing and clicking by using the import function to copy existing values from one over to the other to accelerate the speed at which we develop our conditional styles. So now we click OK. We've set up our width, we've set up our formatting, we've set up our conditional styles. We're now ready to test it out. So click Save. Click Working Preview. I'm going to select Customers, and let's look at South Bend Auto. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and you'll notice that our sales year to date is now showing properly coloring. We did miss one thing. We want this sales year to date to have better text and on the left side, but we'll check that in a few moments. Let me go back. Let me check another account. You'll notice here that now our sales year to date is looking good for green, and all our rules are being applied properly. Let's find another one here. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and try something else here. Now you'll notice we have a sales year to date below the amount we would like to see. So we do still need to adjust this. We want sales year to date here to be properly formatted and to the left-hand side. So let's go back into design. On sales year to date, let's go over to our field label in our properties. So I'm going to scroll up here, and there's our label for sales year to date. So I'm going to change this to sales year to date. That will now look a little nicer. And we also want to change our position from on top to the left and left here. Note, if I had wanted to, I could have used those values here and used the copy property value. But in this case, it was just quicker to make those simple adjustments. So now our sales year to date and month to date look proper. And we're ready to move on to formatting our KPIs to give the user a very graphical look at how their clients are performing in the field. So our sales month to date and year to date is starting to look pretty good. Much more compact, more direct, and because of the color coding, will be more impactful in terms of a person in the field looking at the status of a particular client and deciding, hey, how are they doing? In this case, we can see and go, hey, their sales month to date were looking good, but we're weak on a sales year to date. We want to accomplish the same thing with the KPIs. KPIs are key performance indicators. They're measures of how they're doing as far as that client. So for instance, the client has an overall KPI, they have a purchasing KPI, and they also have a reorder KPI, meaning how effective, how much reordering are they doing, etc. And these are random numbers, so they may not make the most sense in terms of what you're seeing above, but we want to be able to display these very graphically to the person so they get a good experience. Meaning that right now you kind of have to say, well, 34, 80, is that considered good, bad, or whatever? What is the total? What's the max they can get, etc. So Alpha has a number of built-in visualization tools, and we're going to use one in particular to help us style this to make this look great. And we're going to start by focusing on overall KPI. So return to the design environment, select the overall KPI field, And as before, when this was created, it was created using a text box. So we want to modify that to use a more graphical control. So let's go ahead and scroll back up to the top and find the first item, which is the control type, and click the ellipsis button next to that. As you can see, there's an amazing number of control types built in and allowable in our UX here. And we'll be exploring more of these as we go through future trainings. But for our purposes, the one I'd like to use today is called semicircular number display. This is a very handy one for displaying these kind of numerical values graphically to the user. So select semicircle number display and then click OK. Now when we do that, it's going to change our structure of our control, meaning the properties that are available are going to change because in this case, we have a different type of control that's available. So let's go ahead and go through a few steps to kind of clean this up and make it look good. So the first thing I want to do is modify sort of the size of this control. That's very important so it displays properly. So you'll notice over here in the custom control data bound, you have a height and a width. So for the height, I'd like you to make it 200 pixels. So that's 200 px. And for the width, we would also like to make that 90%. So again, it doesn't take up the whole width of the page so that we can use our swipe gestures to be able to effectively modify them from there. Now, I want to do one other thing, and that is display in this the information that is displayed. So right now it's going to display a graphical item, but we want to actually display also a numeric value so we get the best of both worlds. So go ahead and click here on Control Properties and click the ellipsis button to open that up. And you'll notice that we have a number of different settings that we can make, and we'll come back and explore this a little bit more in a minute. But the first thing I'd like you to do is click Show Number in Center of Semicircle. And what that will do is that will actually take our value and show it along with the graphical representation of what that number means. Now, the other thing you would like to do is make sure that your minimum and maximum numbers are set correctly. They're defaulted to 0 to 100, which is what our sort of range is on our system here. Yours may be a little differently. Maybe these are revenue numbers that are much higher, or some other elements, or something to a numeric value for a smaller number. But in our case, we have anywhere from 0 to 100, and so our maximum and minimum numbers are set correctly. Click OK. Click Save. And now we can do a working preview. Select Customers. Scroll down a little bit so we see it better. Go into here, and I'll scroll down. And you'll notice now, instead of just a pure number, we have a very nice semicircle display, meaning it shows us our value, it shows us our min and our max, and it shows us graphically where they are in terms of meeting that maximum value there. So already we have a much more visual indicator of what they're doing. You can quickly look at it and see, hey, yeah, that's okay. It looks kind of low. And it allows humans to sort of digest information at a quicker speed. Now we want to make one other modification. We want to be able to actually tell them, hey, is 34 considered good? Much like our sales month to date and sales year to date, we want to be able to show them graphically what is going to happen. So first thing, by the way, I want to change is this label right here and make that a little bit more effective. But then we'll quickly go in and change the color formatting of this to make it even more impactful for the user out in the field. Okay, so let's go back into design. On overall KPI, the first thing I'm going to adjust is this label over here to the right. So I'm going to go overall KPI. Now that I've set that, we can go back in and look at the control properties to adjust kind of the color coding. So let's go ahead and either double click the control properties or click the ellipsis button. And we're back in there. Now you'll notice the third item down is color type. So currently we have a static color type, meaning that color of that bar was blue. And here's how we set that blue. But one of the more powerful aspects of this display is the ability to make it something called dynamic. So let's go ahead and click dynamic. So I did that by clicking the drop-down box and click dynamic. Now it's added a new property called value ranges. So we can select that. And you'll notice we have value ranges that are empty. So we can go ahead and to help us out, we have some samples. So I'm going to insert a sample here. And as you can see, this is how it dictates the ranges. So you'll notice there's actually a visual representation down below. So from 0 to 5, it's red, 5 to 7 is blue, and 7 to 10. So we're on a scale of 0 to 100. So let's kind of make that. So we'll go from 0 to, let's say, 4D. We're going to make that red. And you'll notice it's reflected down here. From 41 to, let's say, 80, we're going to make that yellow. And then from 81 to 100, we're going to make that green. So now we have a range that says, depending on from 0 to 100, if the value is 0 to 40, make it red, 41 to 80, yellow, 81 and above, a green. And we do that using this structure here, which is this. Now, if you have any questions about how this works here, you can click this explain syntax, and it goes through and discusses how this values are set on there in the system. So now we're good to go. We can click OK and click OK. So now we've adjusted our label and we've made it a little bit more graphical. Click Save. Let's go into working preview. I'll go ahead and select customers, click South Bend. Let's scroll down to review our results. And now you can see it's showing our 34, but since we're under 40, we're getting a red indicator. So already we're starting to provide more value to the user of this application. Let's go back. Let's go into Leanne, and you'll notice, they're doing a little better. They're at 67, so they're in the yellow section. And if we go back and check another one out, this count is doing great. We've got 99. And you can adjust the size of these fields, the text size, the font, etc. Change the colors at will to make it look and work the exact way you would like. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and quickly apply that to our other two values here. So let's go back into Design. First thing I like to do is go to Purchasing KPI, and let's modify that to a semicircle number display. You do that by clicking the control type at the top of the properties and selecting that and clicking OK. And we can do the same thing for reorder KPI. Let's go to the control type. Let's click semicircle number display and click OK. Now that we've set that, we want to go ahead and modify our height and width so it matches our first control. So click Overall KPI, select Height. Let's click the little eyedropper icon, and this will open up our control browser. And we scroll down until we locate our Purchasing KPI and Reorder KPI. Now I can go ahead and select both of those and click Set Properties. And it will set that property of height to both of those. Now I can select Width, and let's go ahead and click the eyedropper icon one more time. Now one thing that's nice about the eyedropper is that it remembers the last selection you made. So in our case, it remembered, you just copied a property to Purchasing and Reorder, so I'm going to go ahead and keep those selected. So as you can see, it adds a little speed in terms of being able to modify things. Now, let's go ahead and modify the Purchasing KPI label so that looks nice. So select Purchasing KPI. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see underneath where we've been setting the properties, label, and change that to be Purchasing KPI. And that's just Purchasing with a space and then KPI. and you'll see it modifies it right here. We'll do the same thing for reorder, and we'll go into label for reorder by double clicking on it and change that to reorder KPI. Just making it look a little sharper, a little easier to read. Now we have one last thing we would like to do. With overall KPI, we've already set the control properties. And what we'd like to do is essentially copy those. Now, there are certain limitations. If I click here, you'll see that I'm not able to actually copy those properties. It's sort of a complex property. So there's certain properties you can't do a copy. But we can do it fairly quickly with just some manual methodologies. So let's go ahead and click OK. With overall KPI selected, let's open up the control properties. And what I want to do is go down here to, we notice its color type is dynamic. Let's go to value ranges and select that. We know that this value range is working perfectly for us. So let's go ahead and copy that by highlighting it and right-clicking and saying copy. So we're essentially doing a manual copy of those values. And we can cancel out of here and cancel out of here. So now we can click on Purchasing KPI. Over on the right-hand side, we have control properties. Let's go ahead and select those. Our minimum max is set up. We want to show the number in the center of the semicircle. And we need to change our color type from static to dynamic. And once we've selected dynamic, you'll see our value ranges property now appears. We can go in there. And in our case, we just have to right-click anywhere in the white space and paste. So now you'll see that we have pasted the exact same value ranges from KPI, overall KPI, to here. So we'll get a similar look and feel. That sets up this control. So now we can click OK. And now we can go to Reorder KPI. Again, we're going to go into Control Properties. So go ahead and either double-click on Control Properties or click the ellipsis button. We'll show the number in the semicircle. And then the color type we want to change from static to dynamic. And in the value ranges, we paste that. And notice I get rid of any white space, so it's just these three lines. I find that makes sure that everything works smoothly. And click OK. And then OK. Now, you'll notice that when we set up this first one, we had everything working the way we wanted to it. And then we went in manually adjusted these other two. Just to let you know, is built into Alpha is the ability to duplicate a control. Now, once you've duplicated that control, it's going to have all the same sort of settings, parameters, etc. that you want. The only thing you're going to need to do is go back in and reconnect that control to the list control through the detail view. So you can copy that control. That control will have a new name, and it will inherit all the properties of the previous one. But again, there's a step to go in. And you might find that's actually simpler to do than doing this manually. Either way is effective, and you can kind of pick and choose as you need to for your particular application. Click Save. We'll go into Working Preview. I'm going to go ahead and adjust the screen, go into Customers, and we'll look at South Bend Auto first. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. So you'll see our first KPI is overall. The second one, even worse. And our third one looks good. And if we return and go to another account, you'll see that it's dynamically modifying our KPIs as we see fit. And let's go ahead and look at another one just to give an idea of how it looks. As you can see, this is very visual. Within a moment, I can say, oh, overall they're doing okay, their purchasing is good, but reordering is bad. And that's the key, is you want to make life easier for your users and really use the graphical elements that are built into Alpha to create a very wonderful experience and very impactful, because humans are visual by nature. And by having these kind of capabilities in your app, you'll find that people use it more, are happier with it, and actually are more effective because they can make decisions very rapidly. And obviously these are very simplistic kind of numbers, but as you can see, if you have more complex scenarios, having graphical representations of those numbers is a very, very powerful methodology. Now that we have the core of our basic application ready, and we're presenting some really valuable customer data to our field personnel, Alpha Sports would like to take it to the next step. They would like to enhance the application to be able to actually collect data out in the field. Step number 1 is they want the individuals in the field to be able to perform a survey, and this survey will consist of several questions that need to be answered, and the survey will also allow the capture of imagery of in the field. Then all of this data needs to be synced back and connected to the customer record and also stored in the backend database. In our next section, we'll go through the steps to add this incredible functionality to your existing application. Our first step for adding the survey capability to our application is to actually configure some new panel cards that will hold the content of our survey information. So, follow along. Go ahead and go to the bottom of the controls here. Click on Panel Card End PC_customer map. Over in the left-hand side, click on the Panels area and click Panel Card. This will ask you if you want to insert both an opening and closing tag, and the answer is yes, and you want to insert it after because we want to put that after our customer map. And you'll see, after scrolling down, we have a new panel card here called Panel Card_5 with a beginning and ending. Now we need to add another panel card, so go ahead and select the ending tag here. We could click Panel Card over here, but a shortcut is to right-click on this end panel card, select Add Panel and Panel Card from the menu. This will ask you the number of cards you would like to add. In our case, we only have one, so click OK. And you'll see that it has added the two panel cards, panel card number 5 and number 6. Now, as we did before, it's very important for you to name your panel cards so it makes it easier when you do your navigation later on. So select the opening tag for panel card number 5, and then go up to the top of the properties here to the ID property and select that. When you select that, that will open up our specify new ID, and we can put in PC_survey list. So in this panel card, we're going to show a set of surveys that are associated with a particular customer. And click OK. Now what I'd like you to do is select the opening tag for panel card_6, and let's repeat the process. Click the ID tag here, type PC_survey detail. In this panel card, we'll be able to show the actual detail associated with a particular survey and be able to edit the information. Very similar to how we set up our customer list and our customer detail, we're going to be doing the same thing here. And click OK. So we now have our new panel cards that are available and ready to go. We've also taken the time to name them so that when we go to do navigation and other aspects, it's very easy for us to understand what is going to be in that panel card content. Go ahead and select the panel card PC_list, survey list, and we're ready for the next step. The process for adding our survey content into our mobile application is going to be very, very similar to our process for adding customer and customer detail. In fact, the exact same steps are going to be taken. The big difference in our case is that we want to have a parent-child relationship between customers and surveys, so customers can have multiple surveys. And in fact, in our database, we already have some existing survey information. So what we're going to do is when we create our new survey list, we're going to link it to its parent, which is the customer. So to do so, make sure that panel card PC_survey list is selected. Go over to the left side and select Data Controls and select List. This will open up our new control. Type the word List Survey. This will be the name of our new list that will hold the survey data for each customer. Now, to quicken our process, we click List Control Quick Setup Genie. We now can go through the steps of selecting the information that will be in our survey. So we select the connection string first. In our case, we have one connection string, which is our backend database, and click OK. The method for defining the SQL query, we're going to use fields from the table. We now select the specific table we'd like our data to come from. So click the button next to table name, select Survey, and click OK. Now that we've selected the table, we can now select the specific fields we would like. Click on Field List, select the button for that row, and this will open up a set of fields from our database. In our case, what we'd like to do is select all of them because we'll be using all of them. Click Select All. You'll see all of them are checkmarked. They're shown here, and click OK. We are not going to worry about filter and order because that is taken care of by the system, and we can go ahead and move down the questions. So we do want a detail view because we want to be able to edit this information, much like we did the customer data. So click Detail View, select Has Detail View. You'll notice that it adds a number of different fields that I can then adjust this. We'll go ahead and leave all these defaulted. Now, in our previous, we selected disconnected operation. But in our case, we don't need to do that because our parent list is disconnected. By virtue of that, it's going to make our child list, which in this case is survey, disconnected also. So you don't need to select that. But we do want to set up what's called a parent list. So if we go ahead and click the little plus button next to parent list, you'll see that we have an option for defining a parent list. And we want to go ahead and enable that by clicking the checkbox. Once you've done that, you'll see there's a series of questions we need to ask. The first one is called Parent List ID. Let's go ahead and select that. And in this case, we only have one other list, which is List Customers. So we're going to go ahead and highlight that and select that and click OK. We do want it to preload data since we are working with an offline operation. The next thing we need to do is tell it how do we link the data in our parent list to our child list. So for linking field parent list, go ahead and select that. And in that case, it is our customer ID, which is the primary key for our customer records. And click OK. Now it's asking me, well, how do I link it to the data that's going to be in this list, i.e. in the survey? So we select that button to open that up. And you'll see we have a field. The second field is called Customer ID. And this holds the ID of the customer that this survey is related to. And click OK. So now we've set up our data in terms of what we're pulling from the database, survey in these fields. We do want a detail view. And if I scroll down here, you'll see that we've also specified that we want to have a parent list. So click OK. In a few moments, the system will generate all of the controls we need for this, much like we did with customer. So you'll see we have list survey, and we also have a container that holds all of our different fields for our survey, plus a set of pre-configured buttons there. Let's go ahead and move all of this container information into our survey detail while we're here. So either shift-click the container 1_2 beginning and ending, or click and drag over all of those. Now you can either use the down arrow here to move that down, or I like to use this little stacked rectangles. That opens up a navigator. I scroll down and select the opening tag of our survey detail and click OK. And that will go ahead and move everything into the right place with one click. So we now have our survey in our PC_survey list and our detail in our PC_survey detail. We can now start formatting both our list and our detail view. We'll start with the list. Let's go ahead and click on List Survey. On the right-hand side, you'll notice that currently it's set up with a height and width of 3 inches and 4 inches. In our case, we want it to consume the complete panel card, so let's go ahead and click Fill Container. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and go into the formatting of the list and see how it will be displayed on the screen. To do so, double-click on List Properties, or click the ellipsis button, or just double-click on the list itself. That will open up our list builder. As you can see, this is the full builder versus the shortened one we used to get it started. What I would like you to do is go ahead and go to List Layout. You'll notice that when Alpha built this list for us, it went ahead and used what's called a columnar layout, and it included all those columns. So it was kind of handy and helpful. To actually see what it would look like, click the preview list down here in the left-hand corner. And as you can see, it's previewing our content. As you can see, this will not work very well on a mobile platform. Therefore, let's take a moment to change this so it's going to look a little better. Let's go ahead and close that. We can now go to List Properties, scroll down until we reach the Layout Properties and the Layout Type. You could have also clicked Properties here and typed Layout and found Layout Type, and that would have taken you directly to our Layout Type spot. From the drop-down menu, select Freeform, and for Freeform type, let's keep it vertical. Now when we return to the list layout, we will have an empty area where we can build our layout here. And on the left-hand side are our available items in our list. So in order to build this, let's go ahead and use a predefined template. These are templates built into Alpha that will allow us to quickly generate a nice looking interface without much work. Click Predefined Templates. This will open up our predefined templates. I'm going to select this one. It's a nice simple one there with a level 1, level 2, and click OK. This will then open up a placeholder dialog asking us, well, what fields would you like to have in those placeholders? So I'm going to go ahead, and for now, I'm going to put survey date as the level 1, and then for level 2, I'm going to put the overall rating. We'll come back and do some more modifications to make this even more effective a little bit later in our training, but this will suffice for now. Click OK. You'll notice that Alpha put in a predefined set of HTML and CSS, and if I scroll over here, you'll see that it inserted the fields here using the curly brackets. And so what will happen is this, when it's rendered on the user interface, will replace the current survey date and overall rating in those locations. So click Preview List here in the left-hand corner to review it and make sure it looks okay. So you can see we have a series of dates. In this case, it's showing us date, time, and the overall rating below it. Again, we're going to spend some time making this a lot prettier in a future part of our training, but this gives you a quick and dirty way to put together a nicer looking interface showing on the screen. So let's go ahead and close that. We now have updated our list and our list layout, so let's go ahead and click OK. Now you'll notice when we clicked OK, Alpha reviewed our list and said, hey, we have an issue. We have two image fields built into our list, one called survey image, the other called survey signature. And currently, they are not set up correctly. They have to have their embed images and HTML properties selected. So click OK. Go to the Fields tab. First click on Survey Image. Go to Embed Images into HTML and make sure that button is checked. Also go to Survey Signature, go to Embed Images in HTML and ensure that that is checked. Those need to be checked in order for the embedded image to be working properly in this particular situation. Once you have set those to being checked, you can now click OK. And this will save our list with our new formatting. In our next section, we'll review the formatting, make sure it looks good, and also work on connecting our list survey to the customer, but more importantly, also to the detail view for navigation purposes. Now that we have our list looking good, now that we have set up our list, we can focus on the navigational aspects. So our first step is going to be going back up into the customer record and adding a button that when clicked will actually take us to the survey list to show us. Now what's nice is behind the scenes, Alpha is going to make sure when a customer is selected, the proper surveys are displayed. So we don't have to worry about that aspect, but we do have to work on navigation. So let's follow along. Go to Panel Card PC Customer Detail. So I want to be able to see the surveys when I'm actually looking at a particular customer. On the right-hand side, go to Other Controls and click Button. This will add a button to our user interface. Let's go over to the right in the Properties and select the button text and type Surveys. As we've done before, we want to make this pretty visual. So let's do two things. Let's make the button the width of the panel card. So move to Width and type 100%. Then what I'd like you to do is go down to the button layout and let's modify that from text only to image followed by text. This will then open up a new image name field, and let's go ahead and click on that to select an image. Click SVG icon. This will take us to our SVG icon search capability and click Select. There are a large number of them, so let's type in the word document. So let's type in the word document. So type DOC, and you'll see that we have a series of different document type icons. And this one I like right here. It looks like someone writing on a document. Select that one, click OK. You can confirm that it's been selected here, and click OK. So now we've created our button, but now what we need to do is add to our list control we've added our button, but now we need to actually add the action to take us to see the surveys. So let's go ahead and do that by double-clicking on the button, and then we could click Add New Action and add it here. But as we've discussed before, the proper way to do this is actually to set up the Action JavaScript centrally and then run the Action JavaScript here. So click Cancel. Let's go over here to JavaScript Actions, and let's create a new JavaScript action to navigate us from the customer detail to the survey list. Click Add New Action. Let's type Navigate Survey List. So it's nice and understandable. And click OK. This will give us a warning saying we haven't set it up, and we click OK again. You'll notice that our Navigate Survey List is currently red, meaning it hasn't been set up. So we can go ahead and edit that action by clicking Edit Action. We can click Add New Action now, and we're going to use the panel Navigate. So I'm going to go ahead and type the word panel in our filter list, click Panel Actions, click OK. Here's our action name. First one is Set the Active Panel. That is the second item in our list. And we want to set our target panel to be Survey List. And you'll notice since we used a nice naming convention that made this fairly simplistic. And click OK. And we're going to put in a comment here, Navigate to Survey List. And click Save. So now we have our Action JavaScript ready to go. We can go back into our button and run that JavaScript. So click OK. Double-click on Button Surveys. You'll notice since we defined our Action JavaScript centrally, nothing is shown here. So we can click Add New Action. And then we want to use the third one down, which is Run Action, and click OK. The action name is Navigate Survey List. And then click OK. And we'll type our Run Action Navigate to Survey List. And click Save. You'll see there's a couple more steps there, but it's going to pay off. You'll see in a little while when we navigate to the survey list, we're probably going to want to do a few other things, such as update the control bar so that we see properly what's on that particular panel card. So what's nice about having it centrally is instead of having to go back into every place I call it, I can now go back into my JavaScript actions and edit it there. So let's see how things are coming along. Click Save. Click Working Preview. Now we can navigate into our customers. The data we provide, only the first couple records have information. So we've been normally using these fields down here, but for this purposes, we're going to use these fields up here. So I'm going to click Graham. You'll notice now we have our new Surveys button. I'm going to click Surveys. So as you can see, it's showing a list of surveys that are associated with this customer. But we see we have another issue. When we navigated to Survey List, it kept our customer detail control bar layout. So we're going to need to add a new layout that can be displayed while we're on the survey list, and in there also create a way to navigate back to the customer detail, wherein it will show that control bar once and again. So just to verify that everything is working okay, I'm going to click my back button here, and you'll notice it took me all the way back to the list because it assumed I was on the detail. I'm going to actually click the second item here, go into my surveys, and I just wanted to show you that you'll notice that the survey information is linked directly to the customer. So behind the scenes, Alpha is taking care of that survey data and making sure that it's only showing the surveys that are related to its parent record, i.e. the customer. So in our next section, we're going to go ahead and spend a few minutes to improve our navigation, in which when we come to our survey list, our control bar will show something more appropriate. Let's add a new control bar layout so that when we're on our survey list, it looks nice. Let's go back into Design. Let's scroll up to the top, and then let's select Control Bar, and you can actually double click on it to open it up. We now want to add a new control bar layout. But before we do that, we need to have a button on that control bar layout that will navigate us back to the customer detail. Now, one thing that's great about the control bar in this technology is as you start to add it, you'll notice we already have certain features built in. Meaning if I go to Items, and you'll see we have a button customer detail that has already been set up for taking us from the customer list down to the detail. And we can merely reuse that. And that's what you'll find as you do more work within your Alpha application, you'll be able to do more and more reuse of the key capabilities. So with that, let's go ahead and go to Control Bar Layout. We want to go ahead and add a new layout. You'll see we currently have 3 layouts. Layout number 1, PC_customer map, PC_customer detail. And we actually have a secondary layout, which is for our menu. So let's go here. Let's add a layout, and let's call that PC_survey list. And click OK. This will be our layout for when we're on our list. You'll notice that we don't have any lines for the control bar layout, so click Add Line. This will open up our Edit Layout line. So first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and put our static HTML for our app here in the middle. So I clicked Add in the middle, selected HTML1, and then clicked OK. Now on the left side, we want a navigation button that will take us back to the customer detail. Well, as we mentioned before, I can click Add. You'll notice we already have a button that exists called Customer Detail. And now we can click on that, and that will show us our button Customer Detail. And click OK. So now you'll notice that we have a new control bar layout called PC_survey list. It just shows the app name in the middle, And on the left side, we now have a nice navigation button. Originally, just to show you, we created this button for when the person was looking at a map of the customer, we had a button we wanted to return back to the customer detail. And so we're basically just reusing this item over and over again. The other benefit of doing that, and I'll go back to my items, if I click on the button Customer Detail, you'll notice that we have a click event here called Button Customer Detail on Click. And if we go to our Actions tab up top and go to the button Customer Detail on Click, you'll see that we already had a JavaScript action or action JavaScript set up and ready to go. So again, over time, you'll end up reusing pieces of it. And that's why it's very important to structure all of your actions into central JavaScript actions so they can be reused. Click OK to go ahead and close this. So now we have our new panel layout. And that panel layout will be shown on our survey list. But we actually have to tell Alpha to show that at the appropriate time. So if we scroll down, we'll notice that we have a button. When the user clicks that button, it will take us to the survey list. And actually, we aren't actually doing the action JavaScript here. We're running our navigate survey list. So what we want to do is go back and change this action to do two things. Do the navigation and also change the control bar layout to the one we would like. So click OK, click Save. To do that, we go over to JavaScript Actions. We find our Navigate to Survey List action. Let's go ahead and edit that. You'll notice currently we only have one action in here, which is the Setting the Active Panel. Let's click Add New Action. Let's type Control because we want a control bar action and click OK. This opens up our control bar action editor. The action we would like is Set Active Control Bar Layout. So again, there's a number of different actions you can take. So we're going to take action name Set Active Control Bar Layout and click OK. Now that we've done that, it's going to ask us a couple follow-on questions. First, which control bar do you want to act on? In our case, we only have one control bar. And then it's also asking us which layout we would like to show. And the one we would like to show is Survey List. So select that from the list, click OK, and click OK. Let's go ahead and add a comment. Display PC Survey List Control Bar Layout. And click OK. I do add these comments here because then over time, as I start to add more and more of these actions, I can tell exactly what's happening. And click Save. We have now updated our Navigate Survey List. We don't actually have to edit this button because it's going to reference whatever this action JavaScript is. So we click OK. We can now test our system by clicking Save. Go into Working Preview. I'm going to go ahead and nudge this down. Go into Customers. I'm going to select our first customer here. We still have our button here. Now notice when I click the button, we navigate to our survey list, and you'll notice the control bar now has been updated to our new layout. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on this button to take me back to the detail, and you'll notice two things. It navigated us back to the detail record we were at before, and more importantly, it reset our control bar layout to be the one that we need when we're on a detail record. So as you can see, once you start building up these pieces, you're basically just showing different layouts of the control bar depending on the situation. So I'm going to go ahead and go into surveys once again. And in our next section, we can work on cleaning this up, making it a little nicer. And more importantly, when you click on a survey, taking you into the detail of that survey and cleaning that up also. Now we would like to do two things. First is modify the look of our list of surveys just to make it look a little nicer, because it's really not obvious what the number is below the date and time. And also we really only need to display the date. Secondly, what I'd like to do is when I click on one of these items, I want to take it into the details to show the details. So let's do step one, which is clean up this user interface. Go ahead and go back to Design. Scroll down until we reach List Survey. Go ahead and open that by double-clicking on it. And we're inside of our list builder. And you'll see if we return to the List Layout tab, this is the layout of the fields. Now you'll notice there's no formatting in here of the field types themselves. Basically it's HTML and CSS taking whatever's in this field and displaying it. So for survey date, we want to change that so instead of showing a date time, just a date. And the way we do that is actually modifying the field definition. So click on Fields, and when you're on Fields, you'll see a list of all the different items that are available. And you'll notice some have been outlined as images, text boxes, etc. So click on Survey Date, and you'll notice there's a little T next to it. That means that it identifies it as a date time value. Now on the right-hand side, you'll see there is a date time display format. So you can actually apply formatting to this field, and then when it's shown in the layout, it will look great. To modify this, click the ellipsis button, and this gives us some guidance. We're going to go ahead and use a default date format. So select Set to Default, and you'll notice you have two options, default or default date portion only. In our case, we want the date portion only, so select that. And then click OK. So now on the client, the system will automatically format the survey date to be a date-only portion. Now we want to make one other adjustment. Let's go to our list layout. And you'll see currently we're showing overall rating, and that's all we're showing is the value of that field. So to give a little more context, click in front of the first curly bracket and type in overall rating. What we're doing here is basically inserting some static HTML that will be shown on every line. And then we still keep the actual field value after that. Click OK. Click Save, and let's check it out. Working preview. Go to Customers, select our first customer, go into Surveys, and now you'll notice that it's looking a lot nicer. We have our date that is formatted as a date only, and we have our survey rating of overall rating shown with a little piece of text in front of it to give context. Our next step is to add the navigation behavior to allow a person to click on an item here and go in and see the details. At the same time, we're going to be working on the control bar and adding a new layout so that when they're looking at the details, they have a unique layout that's available for them to use. Now we can add our navigation so when a person taps on an item in the survey list, it will take them into the survey detail. But we want to think about that for a moment. When we do that, the control bar layout will stay the same if we just do a panel navigation. So what we want to do is actually take the time now to create a new control bar layout that will be used on the survey detail. And that will set the stage later on when we want to add more buttons, etc., like we have already done with the customer detail. So let's go ahead and go get that set up. Let's go back into Design. Our first step is to scroll to the top and locate the control bar control and double click on it to open it up. This will place us in our control bar builder. Click on the control bar layout, and let's add a new layout for our panel card. To do so, select PC_survey list, click Add Layout, and let's call this PC_survey detail because we'll show this on the survey detail panel card, and click OK. When we do so, you'll notice that we don't have any lines associated with it, and it's giving us a notice down below that that is the case. Go ahead and click Add Line, and this is where we're going to actually add our content to our layout that will be shown on this particular control bar layout. So like we've done before, let's go ahead and click the Add button in the middle, and we'll select our HTML1 and click OK. So now when this control bar is shown, you'll see in the middle that little My App text. Now on the left-hand side, we would like to have a button that takes you back to the survey list. Because we're at the survey detail, we want to go back up to the survey list. Well, let's go ahead and click and add and see we do have actually no buttons currently that will take us to the survey list. So let's go ahead and cancel out of here. We'll go ahead and save our layout by clicking OK. So you'll see we have the rudimentary elements of it, but we're missing our left-hand button. Let's go back to items. This is where we add all items into the system. Click Button Customer Map and click Add Control Bar Item. And we'll call that Button Survey List. So this button will be in charge of taking us back to the survey list. And leave the item here button and click OK. Now you'll notice two things. One is that currently it's set up as text only, and secondly, it's already created a click event that we can modify in the next few minutes. But first, let's change the button layout. You'll notice it's text only. We actually want it to be image only. So we want to click there, the drop-down box, and select image only. Then under icon, we can go ahead and click to open that, and this will open up our specified image dialog box. Click SVG icon, click select, and this will open up all of our SVG icons. Click in the filter section here and type the word left. And I'm going to use this chevron left, which we have used before, so it's a consistent look for the user. And click OK. Now we click OK. So now we've defined our survey button, and it looks like we want it to look, but we have to go check out and see when the person clicks on this button, what action will it take? Well, again, Alpha's already created an action called Button Survey List on click. So let's go over here to the Actions tab up here on top, and let's go down to the new action that's been created called Button Survey List on click. And you'll notice when it created this action, it merely put in some dummy JavaScript just so something would happen in case you used it. We don't need that, so go ahead and highlight everything on line 14 and delete it. So now that's empty. Now we could go ahead and create an action JavaScript, but earlier we've already created a action JavaScript to add to the button on the customer detail. So click Action JavaScript, insert code to run a JavaScript action. And you'll notice we already have a action JavaScript called Navigate Survey List. So we can just reuse that action. And again, I've kind of talked about this a bit, but by centralizing all of your actions into a central set of actions, you'll start seeing this reuse come up over and over and over again. So let's select Navigate Survey List, click OK. So now when the user clicks on that new button, it's going to execute this action, which will in turn execute the action JavaScript that we created earlier. Now that we have our button ready to go, we can return back to our control bar layout, select PC Survey Detail, and then what you can do is select the line and click Edit Line. This will reopen our Edit Layout line, and now we can click Add to add our new button survey list. So click Button Survey List and click OK, and click OK again. You'll see the preview refresh. So now we have our nice little left button and our My App HTML text here. So we're good to go. We've created our control bar layout. We are looking good. Now what we need to do is I'm going to scroll down here to our list survey. So in list survey, we want to modify the click event or the touch event if you're on a mobile phone to take you from this panel card to this survey detail. But at the same time when that happens, we also want it to update the control bar layout so that we see our new control bar layout displayed under PC_survey detail. So to do so, we're going to add a new action JavaScript that will do that. So let's click JavaScript Actions on the left. Let's go ahead and add a new action, and I'll scroll this down a little bit, and I'm going to call that Navigate Survey Detail, and click OK. This lets us know we've created it but not defined it, so click OK again. So now we can edit this. So let's go ahead and edit that action. And remember, we want to do two things. When you click on the survey, you want it to navigate to the survey detail and update the control bar layout. So we click Add New Action. Let's do the panel action first. So type the word panel into the filter list. Click Panel Actions. This will open up our Panel Actions builder. And select Set Active Panel. And in the target panel name, set PC_survey detail. Set active panel, PC_survey detail. So this takes care of our panel action. Click OK, and we'll say navigate to PC survey detail panel. That way we have a nice description of what this action actually does. Now we'll add our second action. So click Add New Action. And what we can do here is this is a control bar action. So we'll type the word control, and we can look down and see we have our control bar actions. Click OK. This will open up our control bar action builder. For the action we want to do, we click on the ellipsis button here next to action name. Click Set Active Control Bar Layout, and click OK. Now that we've done that, you'll notice it's asking us which control bar are we taking action on. So from the drop-down menu, click Control Bar 1, and then it's asking us, well, what layout should we show? And if we click there, it shows us all the layouts we've defined for control bar number 1. And the one we would like is PC_survey detail. And click OK. So now we've defined our control bar action. So we can click OK. And we want to add a comment. Change control bar layout to survey PC survey detail. And once you've put in a nice little comment there, click OK. So you'll notice we have two actions that are going to occur. It's going to navigate and set that control bar layout to the one we would like. And click Save. So now we've defined our new action JavaScript. But right now it's just defined on the UX. We actually need to now go into list survey and add that to the click event so that it occurs when the person taps on a survey. So click OK. This will return us back to our controls. You can, if this shows here, you can just click controls to get back here. What we want to do is enter into the survey list by double clicking on it. We then go to the list properties and scroll down to the bottom part of it. And this is where all of the different JavaScript actions are held. And the one we're looking for is on click. That is what will occur when the person either clicks a mouse or touches a row in the list. So to edit that, just click the ellipsis button here on the right-hand side. This will open up our JavaScript builder. Note, I could have gone in and created the action here. That's equivalent to clicking here and doing the same thing. But since we already have our action defined, all we need to do is click Insert Code to run a JavaScript action. This will open up our list of JavaScript actions, and the one I would like is Navigate Survey Detail. And notice we have our Navigate Survey list, so be careful. Make sure we're selecting Navigate Survey Detail. And then click OK. And this inserts the little piece of action JavaScript or regular JavaScript that will execute that command. Now we can click OK and click OK. So now we've defined our new control bar layout. We've defined an action JavaScript that will take us to the survey detail and update to that layout. And now we're ready to test. Click Save. Click Working Preview. I'm going to adjust this. We'll go Customers, First Customer, click on Surveys. Now we'll go into here. You'll notice that we navigated into the detail of the survey. It didn't show, but we have our new control bar layouts sitting up here. And the way we can test that is when we click here, it should take us back to our survey list. And indeed it does. If the control bar layout is not changing, when we clicked on that, it would have actually taken you all the way back to the customer record. So just double check to make sure that this button is properly pointing to returning to the list, and also that the proper control bar is being shown. Now that we have our navigation ready to go, we're actually able to go in and start cleaning up and making our survey look really sharp, and also allow us to be able to capture images to add to our surveys. Our first two steps for cleaning up our survey detail is the following. First, what I'd like to do is hide these two fields here. These are only used under the covers to link the survey information to the customer and assign unique IDs. Next, what I want to do is go ahead and display this image. You'll notice that currently the image is showing as a set of text. But what I actually want to do is show the image as an image so you can see it right there. And then after that, we'll start working on the other rating items. So return to design, navigate down until you see the panel card PC_survey detail, and you'll see we have ID and customer ID. To hide the ID field, you go over to the right into the properties area and click the hide button or checkbox. And that will set this field to be hidden. Now the important thing is that it actually still exists on the mobile platform, so it can be manipulated, updated, etc., but the user will not see it. Let's do the same thing with customer ID and go over here to the hide and click hide. You'll notice as you navigate off that the fields are now in a gray state. That just is a visual indicator to say that they've been set correctly. So our next step is survey image. You'll notice currently it is a text box, and thus it is just displaying the text that's in the database. In this case, we're storing the image data right in the database. In a future training, we'll show you how you can really store that as an external file. For our purposes, this works out well. So what I want to do is actually display this image not as that text string, but actually as an image. So to do so, click the control type up on the right-hand side. So make sure survey image is selected. Then go over here to control type and click the ellipsis button, and this will open up all the different control types. And the control type I would like is the fourth one down called image. And so select image and click OK. You'll notice that it changes the icon, so we have a visual indicator of that. And you'll notice over here that the settings have changed a little bit. What I'd like you to do also is we don't want this image to take up too much space. So like we've done before, click on width, enter 90%. Because what I'd like this image to do is to be 90% of the width. Now one thing that's nice is that it will automatically scale the image, so it will be 90% width, and then the height will adjust accordingly. So now we've hidden our ID customer field, we've set our survey image, and we're going to go ahead and save this. We can now test it by clicking Working Preview. We're now in Working Preview. I can scroll down, click Customers. Let's select our first customer, and we'll go into our surveys. We'll select our first survey, and you'll notice that now instead of that text, it is actually showing the image data here. Let's go back. Select our second survey, and you'll see that it's updated the second survey and the survey image here is a different image that's embedded in this database table. If for whatever reason these aren't showing up properly, you can always go up to the home and click refresh customer list, and that will reload this. You can also test it by going into live preview and watching it there. It just has to do with the offline data that's being stored in working preview. By clicking refresh customer list, you'll be able to update that properly. So we now have the ability to display our images and our dates properly. The next step we'd like to take is to clean up our rating and rating questions. And so we're going to go through here and add some new controls that will allow us to present a very easy to use method for inputting that information. When the Alpha Sports folks are in the field doing surveys, they want to ask a series of questions and allow them to rate how the products are being displayed and presented in the stores. There'll be a series of a top level question and then 3 other rating questions. Currently these are generic, but obviously you would want something like, was the presentation fully stocked? Was it present when you walked in the store? Things along those lines. But we have these generic questions here. Now, all of these items here are going to be rated on a star rating, specifically a 1 through 5. And Alpha has a great control for doing that called the star rating control. So let's go ahead and modify these to that control. So let's go back into design. When you're back in design, make sure to navigate down to the PC survey detail, and you'll see our 4 rating questions: the overall rating, question 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's first change the overall rating. A couple things I want to do. I'm not super happy about the label because it's using the database name. So I'm going to scroll down here till I get to the field label section. So again, select overall rating and then scroll down till you get to the field label. Then you can click in the label here and change it to overall rating. And if you want to, you can go 1, 2, 5 or something like that. Notice that if you click the ellipsis button, you can open up here and you can actually edit this in an HTML editor. So you can add your own HTML in there, your own custom styles, formatting, etc., to make it look exactly how you would like it to look. So click OK. We've changed our label here. Now our current control type is text box, which is the default, but let's modify that. Scroll back up to the top of your properties until you get to the control type, and then click the ellipsis button. Again, we have a large list, and if you scroll down almost to the bottom, you'll see star rating. So let's go ahead and select that, and then click OK. So you'll see that it has created a star rating here. And you'll see that the style properties have changed a bit. So let's look at a few of them here. First, you'll notice it's defaulting to the width of 4 inches. Let's go ahead and modify that because we want, like our other controls, the stars to be about 90% of the width of the window. So locate the width parameter and change that to 90%. And that will change that now there. Now let's look at the control properties. Go ahead and click the ellipsis button next to control properties. And you'll see this is where we can modify a bit about the controls. So first and foremost, the number of stars to show. In our case, we're doing a rating from 1 to 5, and so 5 is perfect for us. But also we can look at the colors for both selected and unselected. So you can modify, if you don't like the default colors, which is kind of a gold yellow, you can modify that to your own color scheme. And then you'll also notice a large series of events that are available. When a person selects that, you can do other things, which is pretty neat. So for instance, you may have a situation where based on a certain star rating or overall rating, you want to ask other questions. So in here you can show and hide other controls as needed. So there's a lot of flexibility on being able to modify the behaviors within the star rating control. Let's go ahead and click OK. And we've done our overall rating. Let's go ahead and do the following. I want to make all of these star ratings right now the same. So with that in mind, what we're going to need to do is first we want all of the widths to be 90%. To do that quickly, select the width for our overall rating. Make sure this is highlighted. And then on the icon bar up here, click the little eyedropper icon. This will open up our Select Controls dialog box. Scroll down till you get down to where the rating questions are shown. And let's go ahead and highlight those 3 other ones. You'll see that our current overall rating is already set to 90%, so we just have these. And you can either shift click by clicking the first one and then holding down the shift key and clicking the last one, or you can click and drag down to select those. And so this will apply that same property to all of these. And you can go ahead and feel free to go in if you'd like to modify the field label for each of these here. I'm going to leave them defaulted just for time purposes, but you could always go into the label here and actually ask an effective question of, was the item stocked properly, or something along those lines. That's kind of the basic understanding behind the rating question concept here. Now that we have our first field set up and ready to go, we're now able to change our other ones. Let's first change our rating questions to stars. So let's click on the second item here, rating question number 1. Go over to the right, select control type text box. This will open up our different control types. Let's select star rating and click OK. And in a moment, you'll see the screen will update showing us our new star. Let's do the same thing for rating question 2. Select the field, select control type, select star rating, and click OK. And last but not least, let's click the last rating question, select the control type, select star rating, and click OK. So now all of our rating questions should be the same in terms of having a little star. Now to save a little time, we want all of these to be 90% of the width of the screen. We can go back to overall rating here, select the width property on the right-hand side, and then use the eyedropper up here to paste that property to the other properties. Open that up. In this case, all 3 of these, if they're not selected, just either shift-click these or click and drag to highlight those 3 items here. And you'll notice that it's showing the current property value, and we want to change that. So click Set Properties, and now all of our rating questions are good to go. Now click Save, click Working Preview, go ahead and go into Customers, First Customer here, and go to Surveys. And last but not least, click our first survey. So we have our date in there, and now you'll see we have a very nicely displayed set of star ratings. So behind the scenes, these are numeric values, and they're being translated into graphical values. Now, one thing that's really neat about this is the ability to actually edit the values. So not only does it display, but it's actually an editor. So if I go down here to rating question number 3, and I click the third star, you'll notice that it updates that and shows that. And if I scroll down, you'll notice that it actually has enabled the save button because the star rating is a edit control. So it not only displays, but also allows you to change it. So you can click Save and then Synchronize. And that will save that star rating to the database. So that's really handy in terms of that. Now you'll notice one thing. You'll notice that we're able to actually move both vertically and horizontally. And that has to do with how the controls are laid out on this panel card. So we're going to modify that in a moment. But our next step is to go through a checklist items. Let's say you have a series of checklist items for the person out in the field. So you want to make sure that they talk to the manager, that they restock the display, or they do a count, or something sort of like that checklist. Well, there's a really handy way to put that into your application. We'll do that in our next section. Let's head back into our designer. We can address both the issue with the panel card and also modify these checklist items. Click Design, locate the beginning tag for PC_survey detail. And then if you'll notice on the right, about halfway down, there is a body scroll axis. Basically, this allows you to dictate whether the panel itself can scroll vertically or horizontally or both. In our case, it's currently set to both. So you can go down and you can say, I only want to allow the scrolling to happen either horizontally or vertically. In our case, vertically. Now, the benefit of that is that when the person swipes, they're not going to get that behavior where it kind of wiggles side to side. It will only obey vertical swipe gestures, and that will address that issue there. Now that we've done that, we can focus on our checklist items. So let's go to our checklist item number 1. Currently, it is a text box that's showing an underlying value, and what we want to do is modify that to something a bit more graphical. So with checklist item number 1 selected, come over here to control type and select the ellipsis button next to that. Now, about halfway down, there's a great control called the switch control. And there's actually a description here. Basically, it is great for handling true or false or yes or no type questions. So select switch and click OK. And once that's done, you'll notice that the icon has changed. And over here on the right-hand side, the properties have also changed to add some new ones called switch properties. As we've done before, we first want to modify our width. So let's go ahead and change that to 90%. Again, the reason we do 90% is to give a little room at the right-hand side for scrolling behaviors. Now, you'll notice there's a text for on state and a text for off state. So you'll see in a moment that it displays a graphical, and in this case it just shows visually whether it's on and off, but you can add more capabilities through it. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and say the text for the on state is true and the text for the off state is false. And so this is just text that will be displayed on the control just to give a little more information to the user using it. Now, for instance, you may have a checklist where you're checking out some equipment and you want to say, is the item on or off? So you could change this to on or off or any of those that you may want to change. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and update our other checklist items while we're here. So first, let's go to checklist item number 2. Let's go to the top, go to the control type, and select control type, and select switch from the control types that are shown on the screen, and click OK. Let's do the same thing for checklist item 3. Select it, go over to the right, go to the control type, click the ellipsis button, and select switch from the control type list, and click OK. So when you change control types, it's really a manual process because it changes so many different elements of the properties. But now that we've done that, we can go back to our checklist item number 1. This is the first one we set up. You can click on width property, which is currently set 90%. Go up to the icon bar here at the top of all your controls and click on the eyedropper. This will open up our selector. Now you'll notice that remember the last time we used this with the rating questions. So now what I'm going to do is highlight the 2 controls I would like to apply that property to, which is checklist item 2 and checklist item 3. And it's showing us our current value of that. Good visual just to make sure you're not reapplying something that you've already done. And click Set Properties. So now we've applied that 90% there. So we can go ahead and do that for the text for the on state. Go ahead and select that property in the properties here. So you select the property you want to copy. Click the eyedropper icon up here. And you'll notice it's remembering our selection. So all we have to do now is click Set Properties. And then click Text for Off State. Click the eyedropper. Again, everything is pre-selected for us, so we just click Set Properties. So now all of our checklist items have similar behaviors. Now, you'll notice currently the label for each one is checklist item 1, 2, 3. But you could go in here and change the label to say, was display stocked? Was the manager there? Was the promotion shown? Those kind of things there. So you can use the label to further tell the user who's using the application what it looks like and what they're being asked. Click Save. Go into Working Preview. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. We'll go into Customers, Graham. Let's click Surveys and click our first survey. Now that we're on our survey detail, we can scroll up. You'll notice when I scroll, it won't go side to side. It will only go vertically. And you'll also notice that we have our new checklist item elements. And you can see they're showing a sort of a switch, 90% of the width, and it's displaying our on-off values in there. So for instance, when I click false here to true, you notice that it changes the color and also the text. So it gives you a really nice visual. And these are really nice because they're big, they work well on a phone, and they're really nice to touch with your finger, very responsive. Now, much like the star rating, when you select one of these items, it's not only a display, but also a data entry. So if I scroll down here, you'll see that, it's made this record dirty. I can click Save. Now it's saved on the local device, and then I can click Synchronize. And that will now call the back-end system and apply that change. By the way, if it can't connect to the back-end system when you click Synchronize, no problem. It just stores the information and waits for the next synchronization event. And we'll show you very soon how you can automate that so the user doesn't have to go through all of those processes there. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and change our interface to allow the person to sign this survey, because you want the person out in the field to kind of put their John Hancock on there to make sure that you know who has actually performed this survey. And that's also very handy for other kind of applications such as delivery apps or inspection apps where you need to have someone sign to sort of signify that it was done. To modify our field so it will capture a signature, let's return back to the design environment. And then locate the survey signature field here. And you'll notice it's currently a text box. So let's go ahead and modify the control type for our survey signature. Click the ellipsis box next to our ellipsis button next to control type. Select the ellipsis button next to the control type. And then locate signature capture. It's about 4 down from the top. And click OK. So you'll see that the icon has changed and our items over here have also changed in terms of the different properties that are available. Now, before we would go in and just set sort of a width property of 90%, but the survey signature or the signature control is a little bit more defined, meaning you have to be a little bit more precise in terms of how you lay it out. So we're going to modify these. I'm kind of knowing how it's going to lay out. This is actually a little bit too large for our working preview. So let's go ahead and modify our container height to be 200 px. So put in 200 px. Once you've done the height, go to the container width and change that to 300 px. Then go to the signature capture area height and change that to 175 px. And last but not least, let's change our area width here from 400 px to 275 px. So again, that's 200, 300, 175, and 275. And that will adjust it so it just fits on our screen a little nicer. And you can use a little trial and error to make sure it looks good on the target platform. The rest of the properties are very powerful. You can change all of these to really just tune up how the signature capture control works. So there's a lot of sort of fine tuning you can do to get it exactly what you want. One other modification we need to make is here, inline style for buttons. They're currently width of 100 px. And I'm going to go ahead and change that 100 px to 70 px. And again, this is just a fine tune so that all the buttons fit on the same row. Now I'll click Save. Go into Working Preview. We'll click Customers. Go ahead and scroll down a little bit. Graham, Surveys, and let's look at the first survey. I'll scroll up here. And you'll now notice that we have a nice survey signature area. Includes kind of a gray background where the survey would be, and then a set of buttons down below. Now when it's displayed, it's actually active, so I can go in here and put in a signature. I'm mimicking that by using the mouse, but if you had a finger, you could just use your finger to draw in that area. Once I do that, I click Accept, and you'll notice that it essentially has locked the signature area, meaning that it's gotten rid of the gray background, and now you can't actually modify it. But if you need to re-sign, you can simply go Sign, and it will reestablish this, and you can sign once again. And that is all automatic in the system here. And like our other items, this is a input control, so it will automatically make the record dirty. I can click Save to save it, and then synchronize it. And in a moment, it has synchronized this information and stored this information in the database. Now for this particular control, it uses a bitmap, so it's actually saving a bitmap. There's an alternative control that actually uses Alpha's ink technology to save it not as a bitmap, but rather as ink data. And there's different reasons you would use both, but both of them are available. We need to do one last thing, and that is to allow the person in the field be able to capture this image. So we're currently showing an image that's already in the system, but now we need to go in and add a button that will allow the user to capture an image on their phone and store it with a survey. To add our Capture Image button, let's return to Design. Let's go up and select Survey Date. This is the insertion point, and what we'd like to do is have our button above our survey image itself. So on the left-hand side, click Other Controls and click Button. This will add a new button to our user interface. Now on the right-hand side, select Button Text and change that to Capture Image. So that will be the text that will be displayed on that button. Let's also modify the width and make that 100%. That way it's fully the width of whatever is shown on the screen. And let's make one other adjustment to really make it sharp. You'll notice the current button layout is text only. So select the drop down, select Image followed by Text. That will modify our properties. Click on Image Name here and select that. We'll go in here to SVG Icon, click Select, and this will bring up our image selector. And if you click in the filter area and type the word camera, you'll notice that there's a nice little camera icon that's available. So click that and click OK. You'll now notice that we have a nice looking icon, and this will be presented before the text on the button, and click OK. Now that we have our button, it doesn't do anything yet, so let's go ahead and add the behavior to it. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on this button. And you'll notice that we're in our Action JavaScript builder. Now I want to remain consistent. Although this is a pretty straightforward button, where I click Add New Action and then add it in here, I want to really use the technique where I centralize all of my JavaScript actions in one location. So let's go ahead and click Cancel here. Notice that it says it's been edited, so we're not going to save the changes here. And what I'd like you to do is go over to JavaScript Actions. And this will open up our JavaScript actions. So now let's create our new action, and we'll call that capture survey image. And the reason I put in survey is you may be capturing other images. And so we want to be as explicit as possible so it's easy to remember what this action JavaScript does. So click OK. This will tell us our action's created, but not ready to go yet. And click OK. We can now edit that by clicking the Edit Action, and we're back into our Action JavaScript Builder. Click Add New Action, and type the word image. As you can see, there's a number of different image items that you can do within there. The one we would like is image capture for list detail view. Since we're using a list and a detail view, this is a pre-built one. And notice, really powerful, it can either use the camera or the photo library on the mobile phone. Very flexible. And click OK. This will open up our image capture. Now you'll notice first it's asking us where should it store the information that's been captured. In our case, we're going to select the image control, and that image control is our survey image. So I'll select that, click Survey Image, and click OK. And you'll notice a couple things. It's already set certain parameters for you. First and foremost, it knows that survey image is actually a database field that is what we call blob, where it's actually storing the image data in a database field. So in this case, that's your only selection in this scenario. And you also notice that it's telling you what kind of image control, etc. Now what's kind of neat is there's some other functions we're not going to adjust here, but for instance, you can have it automatically create image thumbnails, which is very handy. You can also have it resize the image, so it's exactly the same every time it gets captured. And this is valuable if you want to save space on your server and on your phone in terms of those styles there. Even though we're not going to use it here, we're going to show this in a more advanced course, you'll notice that there are other image capture methods available. So HTML5 works well in the browser. It'll work well within what we're doing here. But you also have what's called PhoneGap, where if you're building an application that's going to be wrapped in PhoneGap, it allows you to capture it not as data that goes into a field, but rather it captures it as an external file. You capture that file name, and then it will synchronize all that back to your backend system. And then PhoneGap Preferred says, if PhoneGap's running, use that. If not, drop back to HTML. Very, very flexible. But for our purposes, let's keep it to HTML5. And let's click OK. And I'll go capture image into survey image field. So it's very obvious. And click OK. So now we have our new action JavaScript that will trigger that capture of that image. Click Save, and now you'll see it's a green little logo. And we're done here in our centralized JavaScript actions. If this shows, go back to your controls here. Now we have our button that we created earlier. We can double click on that, and now we can actually run that action. So I'm going to click Add New Action. I'm going to click the third item down, Run Action, and click OK. Now we tell it which action we'd like to run. So I'm going to select action name and click the drop-down box. And I'm going to select our new capture survey image action and click OK. And I'll put in here trigger, or actually better yet, run image capture, and click OK. So again, our JavaScript action is supported centrally, but we can trigger it anywhere. And click Save. Now we can test it out. Click Save. Click Working Preview. Select Customers, First Customer, Surveys, and we'll drill down into our first survey. Now you'll notice we have a new button that's available called Capture Image. When I click on here, you'll notice in my case, it's opening up a file browser. And that's just the fact that it's running in working preview here. When you're running on the actual phone, When you tap on that, it will actually open up the camera and the local camera roll so you can select items from there. Pretty nice. So I'll go ahead and select the survey 1 and click open. And in my case, well, let me do that again since it really didn't change the image there. Let's go ahead there and click survey 2. By the way, these images were included in your files. And you'll notice now that it has captured that survey and put that image here. As before, since it's done that, it's told the record that it is dirty. So we can now click Save, Synchronize, and now that new image has been stored in the database in that field and is available. I'm going to go ahead and go back, run that once more, click Capture Image. I'll select our first survey image, click Open. You'll notice that it immediately renders and shows the user what image they've captured. Scroll down to the bottom, click Save, and Synchronize. So now we have our new survey capability built in where I can edit existing surveys and create new surveys. Our next section is just going to be a lot of little cleanup work so we can tie all the loose ends together and have a polished app that's ready to be used by our field personnel. The core of our application is now in place. Our field personnel will have quality customer information available, and along with that, also have the ability to review and create surveys in the field. But I'd like to do a little polishing to bring it all together. So here are the items we're going to go over in this next section. First, I'm going to kind of clean up this My App. Let's call it actually Alpha Sports. Secondly, in the survey detail, we still have our buttons down here. So the user is required to go all the way to the bottom. I'd like to actually take our control bar layout that we've already created and enhance it with a couple more buttons here. And then two other small items that I think will really improve it. One is you'll notice that every time we have to click Synchronize. So I want to actually enable it so the system will automatically try and do a synchronization when a save occurs. The other, which is important, is that when they save a survey in the field, I actually want to trap their longitude and latitude so I can actually see where the survey was created out in the field. And we'll show you that technique on how to add that so the system does that automatically when you create new records. Very, very powerful, very useful. So let's go ahead and take these buttons and move them up onto the control bar panel layout. Let's return to the design and let's take a quick look. You'll notice that all of our buttons are down at the bottom. They were auto-created by Alpha when we generated the list and list detail. And so we want to basically migrate all that onto our control bar. A few things I want to go ahead and get rid of though. I want to go ahead and delete the delete record. I don't want them actually deleting surveys in the field. So click on delete record and click the X to remove that. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and start migrating them onto our control bar layouts. So I'm going to scroll up to the top. I'm going to go ahead and go into control bar by double clicking on it. And we'll make sure we're at the control bar layout. So you can see right now we have one for PC_survey detail. And that is the control bar that's going to be showing when I'm on the detail there. So I want to add a couple commands to it. On the right hand side here, I want to have the ability for the user to save the record and also reset it. To save the record, but also be able to reset it. So in order to do that, I need to create two new control bar items with their associated action JavaScript. So let's go ahead and go into items and let's add a couple new buttons. So I'm going to click add control bar item and I'm going to call it button survey detail save. So this will be our button that will perform the save operation and click OK. I'd like to go ahead and immediately add another button. So I'm going to go to control bar item and I'm going to go button survey detail reset. So this will be our reset button here. And then click OK. So now we have our two new buttons. When they were created, they're text only. So the default button layout is text only. In our case, since we have limited real estate, we want to make those icons. So select button survey detail save, change the button layout from text only to image only. Once you've done that, you'll notice then the icon is available here. So click icon. We're going to use SVG icon, so select SVG icon and select image name. Put your insertion point there and click save, and we have our save button. This is the same one we used on the customer detail, so we want to maintain consistency so the user does not get confused. And then click OK. Now you notice to confirm that that's correct and click OK. So now we have our nice little new button that is purely an icon, and we can do the same thing for reset. Now to shortcut, we want to go ahead and look at reset real quickly here, called button customer reset. And you can see that we're using an edit cancel icon. That way we can kind of know what one to look for when we're into SVG icon selection. In fact, I could just copy this and put it into our detail reset, but let's go through the process manually. Click here, change the button layout from text only to image only, move down to the icon, select the icon. This will open up our image selector, go to SVG icons, and click select over here on the right. I'm going to go ahead and click in the filter here and type the word cancel. And you'll notice after I type in a few letters, we have our cancel icon, the same one we used on the other layout. So select that, click OK, and then click OK. And you'll notice then it put our text in here. So now we have our new buttons. We do need to update the actions, but before we do that, we can just go ahead and go to the control bar layout and add those buttons to our control bar layout. So click on the control bar layout tab, click PC survey detail, and then click on this item here and click edit line. This will open up our edit layout line box. We have our icon over here taking us back to the list on the left. In the middle, we have our HTML1, and in the after, we don't have anything at all. So let's click add. This will open up our control bar items, and we can click save and click OK. That's now added that button. And we can also click add and click reset because we want to add both of those buttons to our layout. Now you'll notice that it's not showing yet, but as soon as we have here, we can click OK, and you'll see that it refreshed here. Now you'll notice it added it in order. So we have our save button on the left and our reset here. Most likely you want to have your most often hit button to the far right. Just that's where people will go first. So we can go ahead and click here and edit this line. Go over here to the after section, click our reset, and click up. Now we've changed the order of those buttons in this area, and click OK. And you'll notice it just swapped out our reset and save locations. Now we have our buttons, we have our layout. Now we can actually go in and adjust the actions. So what I'm going to do here is go to items, and you'll see that when we created both these buttons, we have already created actions, control bar actions here that are available. So I have detail save and detail reset. I can go over to actions, and you'll see when it created those, it just put in sort of a little bit of JavaScript so it showed there. Now I can go in here and immediately start generating these action JavaScripts, but let's take a shortcut and make life a little easier. We still want to create centralized JavaScript to have all of this. So let's go ahead and click OK. And let's go ahead and scroll down till we get to our buttons, save and reset. So what I want to do is Alpha's already written the code for me, so I just want to move that to where I can reuse it. So I'm going to double click on the save. You'll notice here's the JavaScript. I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to click the copy button here, or you could right click on it and click copy here. So now we have that save code ready to go. Click save. This will just close our window here. You could actually click cancel. Click cancel. Now go over here to JavaScript Actions. This will open up our builder. Click add new action. Let's type in save survey. Click OK. Gives us a warning. Note after a while you can just not have that shown. And I'm going to go into save survey. I'm going to add a new action, which is inline JavaScript. So I select action or Ajax callbacks in JavaScript and click inline JavaScript. I then paste that here. That will paste that code that was in the button right here and click OK. And I can go ahead and click save survey. Now, I could have gone into text mode and just pasted it there. But the reason I do it this method is that I may want to take other actions. So for instance, maybe after I save this record, I want to save it, but then I want to head save it, but then maybe I want to do an immediate panel navigation back to the list or to another location or do some other action. So by doing this, you kind of put in place the structure so in the future, it's easy for you to modify and enhance without having JavaScript buried all over the place. So click Save. Now our save survey is done. Hasn't refreshed yet, but we can click OK. And I'll go back into the controls here. So let's perform the same exact thing. Let's go into our Reset button here. Double click on Reset. Here's our JavaScript we like. I can go ahead and highlight that, copy it, just like we did before. And again, you can use this button or right click on it. By the way, I could go right into the Action JavaScript Builder, but I'm going to go out and cancel here and go into JavaScript Actions here. This will open it up. So now I want to add a new action, and I'm going to call Reset Survey. And click OK. Again, we have our new action. And I can now go into Reset Survey and edit that action. So now we're in editing it. I'm going to click Add New Action, Ajax Callbacks in JavaScript, Inline JavaScript, and click OK. This will open up our little JavaScript editor. I can click in here and paste that value here, either using the right-click command or just your Control-V, and then click OK. We'll go Reset Survey, and click OK. So now we have our new Save Survey and Reset Survey, and we're ready to go back in and finally tie those back into our actions that are in our control bar. So click OK. Since we're not going to need these buttons, let's go ahead and delete them while we're here. So I'm going to click and delete this Reset button. And here I'm going to click and delete the Save button. Note, if you didn't want to get rid of it so quickly, you could go over here and just hide that control. And therefore the user wouldn't see it, but it's still there if you ever need it in the future. Let's go back up to our control bar layout. Go into Control Bar. Now that we're here, we can look at, we have our two buttons that are ready to go. Here are the actions that are associated with those buttons. So I'm going to go here and make sure Button Survey Detail Save on Click is selected. I'm going to delete this text here. Click Action JavaScript, insert code to run a JavaScript action, and click Save Survey. And click OK. And that will insert our action JavaScript that will update and run our save survey action JavaScript. Let's do the same thing here with reset. Click on that action. Let's delete the default. Let's go up to action JavaScript, insert code to run a JavaScript action, and look and find reset survey and click OK. So now we have our new buttons. They will trigger click events, and these actions right here will be triggered. And in there, we then trigger our JavaScript actions. And on our control bar layout, we've modified our survey detail to add those items to our top level. We've added these items so that they're available instead of forcing the user to scroll. Now, while we're here, we might as well change one other thing. You'll notice that we've been using HTML1 here, and it says My App. So I'm going to go back to Items here and go to HTML1, and you'll notice over here the item name is HTML1 and the HTML text is called My App. So I'm going to go ahead and click here, and I'm going to change that to Alpha Sports. So I'm just changing that HTML text. And again, since it's HTML, we can use any HTML or CSS in there to make it look exactly what we like. A lot of control. Now, one of the cool things that I really want to reinforce here is the fact that you'll notice that we have a single item here called HTML1. But if we go over to the control bar layout, you'll notice that we used it in this layout, our default layout. So that is one of the really true powerful aspects, is that you can have these central items, modify them, and then you don't have to rebuild multiple layouts because it's reusing these items. Makes your development very, very efficient. If someone wants to rename this, all you have to do is go in, rename the item to whatever you happen to want. You can even change this, add some graphics, etc. But then it will permeate through all of your layouts where you use that item. Let's go ahead and check and verify that everything's working. Click OK. Click Save. Go into Working Preview. Click. I'll go ahead and move this down a little bit. Click Customers. Go into the customer. Click on Surveys. Notice that our Alpha Sports is now showing up there. Click into here. And you'll notice now we have our new buttons. So let's say I go down and change a rating. So change one of the items here. That'll make the record dirty. I can then go up here, click the Save, and it will save my survey information. Thus, I don't have to go to the very bottom. And again, if I click here, let's say I set the survey to 3, I can go up here, click the Reset. You'll notice it gives us our warning, and we can say, yes, we want to reset that value here. So again, making the user's life a lot easier by not forcing them to have to drag a lot to get these things to be done. Now I'm going to go down to the bottom, and there's a couple things we need to do finally, and we'll do that in the next section. First, we have to create a new record. Well, to do that, we should really do that on the survey list. So we're going to be updating the panel layout up here so it's available here. And then secondly, we also want to have the ability here to synchronize automatically so the user is not forced to go through a synchronization step. Let's go back into our design. I'm going to scroll down to our PC survey detail. I'm going to click on the synchronize button here and remove that. Now, even though we removed that button, we have a nice feature. We'll go into list survey here and double click on that. And when we're in the list survey list builder, we're going to go to detail view. And this is where we manage all the detail view items. And the fourth item down here is called synchronization policy. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And you'll notice that there are two options available. The first option is perform client-to-server synchronization whenever user saves edits in a row in a list. We also have perform a server-to-client sync when the same thing happens. So by enabling both of these, the system will automatically try and synchronize back to the back-end system when anybody saves a record in the list. Now, if it's a situation where the mobile device is offline, it will just merely not perform the synchronization, but still mark the records so that next time you synchronize, it knows what records needs to be adjusted. So it's a really nice feature. So I click OK. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK here. Since I've enabled that on my list survey, I'm going to go ahead and go to the top. I'm going to locate my list customers and add the same feature to my list customers. So if I edit customer data and save it, I'd like it to automatically synchronize. So I'll double click here. We'll go to the detail view, go to the synchronization policy, double click on that. That will open up our synchronization policy dialog box, enable the perform client to server, and enable the perform the server to client. Now do realize there'll be a momentary delay while the system calls back and does the synchronization. So you'll have to judge in terms of your application whether you want that to happen or not. I find it's really nice, and most modern networks are really quick, so they don't see very much of a delay. But if you decide not to use this technique, there are other techniques you can use to periodically perform synchronizations for the user automatically so that they don't have to manually synchronize all that data. So let's click OK. So now we've set our synchronization policy on both of those, and we'll be in a position where the user has to do one less thing. Now we have one other thing we want to do from a user interface cleanup, and that is take this new record for our survey and actually show it when we're on the survey list. And we'll do that next. We can now move our new record button onto our control bar layout. So we know we're going to need to use the JavaScript that was created for us. So let's go ahead and create our action JavaScript first. Go ahead and double click on new record. This will open up our edit click event. Go ahead and highlight the first two lines here and click the copy to copy that to the clipboard. And click cancel. So now we've taken the code that's on new record and we're ready to go. Click JavaScript actions. Let's add a new action. We're going to call this new survey and click OK. Again, giving us our notice that we need to go ahead and set up our action. With new survey selected, click Edit Action. This will open up our Action JavaScript Builder. Click Add New Action and go to Ajax Callbacks in JavaScript and click Inline JavaScript. And this will open up our Inline JavaScript editor. Go ahead and click in here and click Paste. Now our code is here and we can click OK and we can say Create New Survey Record. Click OK. Now, this is again where we can use the power of Action JavaScript. When we click the new record, we're actually going to be on the survey list, meaning we're going to be looking at the survey list. We won't be on the detail record. So what we need to do is when we click that, we need to actually do a panel navigate to actually show the user the survey detail so they can start entering in the information. So with our Action JavaScript Builder, we can click Add New Action, type the word panel, and select Panel Actions. Click OK. The action name we would like is Set the Active Panel, and the target panel we would like is our Survey Detail. So click PC_Survey Detail and click OK. And let's put in a comment, Navigate to Survey Detail. So now this single click of this Action JavaScript will do two things. It will create the new record and it will also set the active panel. So let's click Save. So now we've defined our new action JavaScript, we can go into our panel layout in the header and work on it there. So click OK. To do so, let's go up to the top. Let's go back into our control bar and let's go to our items here. So the first thing we need to do is have a little icon we can put on our control bar layout. So let's add a control bar item, and we'll call this button new survey. And click OK. And now we have that button. You'll notice it defaults to text only. In our case, we want an icon. So click the drop-down button and select image only from the button layout settings. And once you've done that, the properties will update and we'll have icon. So I'm going to go here and click this button here. I will go to SVG icon, since we'll use an SVG icon, and click select. I like to keep it simple, so I'm going to merely click the plus button here as the icon we would like to use for our new record button, and click OK. And you'll see it just shows a simple plus button there, and click OK. Now, like the other ones, when we created this button new survey, it automatically created a on-click event or action that's available. So click Actions. Let's go to our button new survey on-click, and we have our default text. So let's remove this text here. Now we can go to Action JavaScript, insert code to run a JavaScript action, and click New Survey, which is our action we just created a few moments ago, and click OK. So now we have our new button. We have an action that we'll take, and that action is linked to our action JavaScript. And now we can go to our control bar layout to add the button. So we go to control bar layout. We want to go to survey list. This is the header that's going to be above our survey list. And now we can click on our first row here, click edit line. This will open up our line editor, and you'll notice we have our little navigation button here, our HTML text, and now click add. Here we can now add our button new survey by clicking on it and clicking OK. So now that will be showing on the right hand side. And then click OK. And once it refreshes, you'll now notice we have a nice little plus button that is available in our panel layout when the person is going to be on the survey list. Now we click OK, click Save, go to Working Preview. We'll go ahead and go down here, click Customers, select our first customer. Let's go into our surveys. Now we have our new plus button, and we'll go ahead and click here. And now we have our new record, and we're on there. But you'll notice we have missed one step. And you'll see that we still have the control bar layout that was present on our survey list. So we actually need to go in and modify our action JavaScript for our plus button to actually modify that control bar so it works properly. We can do that very quickly. Let's go back into design. Since we've centralized that action JavaScript, we can go here to JavaScript Actions, locate our new survey action, click Edit Action, and you'll notice currently we create the new record and then we navigate to that panel, but we missed that last step of setting up the control bar layout. So click Add New Action, type the word Control, and find Control Bar Actions, and click OK. The action we would like is Set Active Control Bar Layout, and click OK. It's asking us which ID of the control bar. We only have one, so we'll select that. And then the layout we would like to show is our survey detail, because we're on survey list and we need to switch it over to survey detail. So let's click OK and click OK. And we'll add a little comment. Set active layout for control bar to survey detail and click OK. Now you can modify the order in which these happen. So I'll probably put that as the first thing I do, then it creates the new record, and then it goes that panel action. By the way, JavaScript is asynchronous, so it's pretty much going to do all this at the same time. And if there is ever a situation where you need to have them happen in a certain sequence, you can use this run action synchronously to force it to do each item one by one. So now that we've modified our event, we can click Save. Our new survey action is updated. We can click OK. Now we don't have to go in and change any of the control bar because that's all set. So we can immediately save our changes. Click Working Preview. I'm going to go ahead and go into Customers, go into our first customer, go to Surveys, and let's go ahead and click the plus button. And you'll notice now it does show us our new survey that's empty, ready to go, but at the same time it's also updated our header so that it has the proper buttons. So let's go ahead and select this. Let's go ahead and capture an image here. Let's grab that one there. And I'll go ahead, scroll down. We'll say the store's doing a pretty good job here. Modify. And then we'll go ahead and select these. Do a signature here, accept that signature. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go back up to the top, but I'm going to click the Save button. Now, normally that would save it locally, but not synchronize it, but notice what happens when I click Save. You'll see, and it just was really quick, but you can see that it's gone through and it's done a little update to the back end at the same time. So it not only saved the record locally, but did the synchronization. And now I can go back in. Now I have my new survey that's saved and it is associated properly with its parent record, which is that particular customer there. The last thing I'd like to do, and I'm going to go ahead and go into one of these here and scroll down, is I want to be able to trap when a person saves a record, what their longitude and latitude is, so I can actually see where they created the record. So we're going to do that in our next section. Return to our design and select List Survey. What's nice is built into Alpha is the capability of grabbing location information. In fact, there's multiple ways to do it, but actually the list control itself can help you do this. So let's go ahead and double click to go into List Survey. Click Detail View, and then locate the table properties about a quarter of the way down the screen, and select that. Now we're on the table properties. This is talking all about how the list control is related to the underlying table or tables. So you'll notice down at the bottom, there's a property called Store Location Information when record is saved. Currently it's set to no. Click the ellipsis button and in this drop down right here, select yes. So this enables that store function and click OK. Now that you've done that, you'll notice that new fields are available. First, it's asking you where should it store the latitude information. So click the ellipsis button. This will bring up a list of fields that are currently in your list, and let's select the latitude field. Next, let's select the longitude field. So we perform the same action by clicking the ellipsis button, and locating our longitude. Now, if you had a location field, that's a special type of field in your database that's really good for spatial search. It can actually do that update while it's going through this process. In our case, we don't have that field available, so we'll leave it unchecked. The last option you have is when do you want to store that information. So you'll notice there's insert only or insert and update. So if you only want to capture location information when the new record is created in the field, you can do that. But if you want to update the location every time a record is updated, so you essentially know where's the last place this record was updated, select Insert and Update. For our purposes, do select Insert and Update. So store location field, latitude field is latitude, longitude field is longitude, and Insert and Update. Now click OK. Now click OK. Now to test this, there's one thing about location. It's really heavily dependent, in this case, on the browser. So when you're working on a phone, it's going to be able to access the local GPS and everything else associated if the user gives permissions. In our case, we'll actually need to test this in our browser. So click Save to save your modifications. Now, instead of using Live Preview or Working Preview, click your browser icon up here. It's defaulted to my default one here, but you can open it in any of the different available browsers that are on your system. But I'm going to go ahead and open it up in Chrome. You'll notice now our application has been opened up inside of our browser window, and you'll notice that it gave us sort of a simulation of what it would look like on a phone at the same time. So I'm going to click Customers, click the first customer here, go into my surveys, and I'm going to go ahead and edit one of my surveys here. So I'm going to scroll down, and let's say I'm just going to change one of these checklist items. And I'm going to scroll down so we can actually see the longitude and latitude values. I'm going to click Save. Now you'll notice when I click Save, the application asks the browser to give it the current location information. So as a security element, the browser is going to ask me if that's allowed. So just be cognizant of the fact that you don't automatically get access to that data. It depends on the security of the browser you're running in, the application, etc. I'm going to go ahead and click Allow. And you'll notice now there's a little item that says this page is tracking it. So I'm going to click Save. Now you'll notice that it has stored the longitude and latitude of the current location given by the web browser. On a mobile phone, this would be that location of the phone out in the field, and it would use all the power of the phone, such as the GPS and other things, to use that. And as you can see, we just merely added that function, so when we save any record in our list, it will automatically trap that information. Let's do one last cleanup item here, and that's to get rid of this New Record button right here. We now have that available on our list, so that's no longer needed. So I'm going to return back into my alpha environment. I'm just going to scroll down here till I get to this new record point. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And now our survey detail looks proper and works the right way. Thank you so much for taking the Alpha202 Advanced Mobile Development with Alpha Anywhere course. During this course, we covered enhancing the navigation of the application using the control bar, adding Action JavaScript to the control bar to enable navigation behaviors, adding field formatting to better display customer data, using the semicircular numeric display to make it easy for the user to understand customer data, adding a child list to show parent-child customer survey data that is fully editable offline and online, mobile optimized field controls that are added to the survey data capture system, signature and image capture fields for the survey, leveraging the advanced control bar functionality for an improved user interface, and capturing device location data automatically during survey collection. If you'd like to explore developing web applications, you can check out our Alpha 100 series of training courses. These courses include Alpha 101, Introduction to Web Development using Alpha Anywhere, Alpha 102, Advanced Web Development with Alpha Anywhere. You can also explore our more advanced courses on topics such as consuming and publishing web services, Alpha 300, or building web dashboards using Alpha Anywhere, Alpha 106.